across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you, and I'm with you now until 1 o'clock tomorrow morning. And coming up at midnight, of course, is the phone-in, and that is a full hour of just you and me talking. There's no guests, there's nothing to get in the way. It'll just be us chatting. Now, what I want to talk to you about at midnight is cocaine use. Now, Bradley Wiggins, the famous cyclist, has revealed that he was what he calls a functioning cocaine addict for a long time, and that his son feared he would find him dead. Wiggins, 45, became the first British cyclist to win the Tour de France in 2012, and with 8 Olympic medals, including 5 golds, he's one of the most decorated Britons ever at the Games. Now, after retiring in 2016, Wiggins fell into debt and addiction. He lost his home, he lost his wife, he lost his family, and he ended up sofa surfing and taking cocaine. He's got a bit of a tragic history, Bradley, but there's so many stories around at the moment about particularly middle-class, middle-aged women taking cocaine. It's an enormous amount of cocaine that gets taken in this country. It's 100 odd tons a year, which is 117 tons of cocaine in the UK. Tons of cocaine. Annually. There are about 1,200 deaths every year from cocaine use, and this has been exacerbated and increased by the number of people who are older taking cocaine. They're known as the silver snorters. So it got me thinking about addiction and what it is to be a functioning addict. A functioning addict. And what's the difference between an addiction and a habit? What does it look like to function as an addict, whether that's alcohol, weed, cocaine, heroin maybe? I don't know. I've never been a drug taker. I am far too much of a control freak, and it's as simple as that. I just don't like the idea of it. I don't like the thought. It just completely freaks me out. However, in my industry, has got to be the most prevalence of taking cocaine, I would have thought, in the media. And I've certainly known a lot of people who habitually or addictively have taken or are still taking cocaine. Fortunately, like I said, it's not my bag. Literally, not my bag. So I want to know from you, if you've been a functioning addict, what that looks like, how you manage that, and do you think that it's something, if you're functioning, I guess there's a part of you that thinks, well, why should I give it up? When is it harmful? I think I just don't understand addiction that well, and how it can spill over into becoming a harmful addiction that can kill you, or is it something that you can manage? Opioids as well. I know a lot of people in this country are addicted to over-the-counter drugs. I've done many a phone-in on that in my past, and they're the hidden addicts. So how do you keep your addiction hidden? I know addicts are sneaky. I know that they are. My brother, who wasn't a functioning alcoholic, he was for a while, and then he ceased to be able to function, was really sneaky. And I've known a few alcoholics who hide drink and try to get rid of people who might question them, and they surround themselves with enablers, and that's why their friendship groups get smaller and more likely to involve people who are the same sort of addict as them. But I'd love to talk to you about addiction and how you manage it. Maybe you are functioning well and you don't see the need to stop. Or maybe you're functioning and you're thinking, I don't know when it's going to tip over. Give me a call. Be fascinated to hear from you. 0344 4991000, and you can message me as well. We can change your name, obviously, if you don't want us to use your real name. We're more than happy to do that. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. So I'd love to hear from you. I mean, it is no surprise that medical people, doctors, nurses and dentists, are amongst the highest number of people who are functioning whilst taking drugs. So it'd be fascinating to hear from you. Before that, the fabulous Kevin Schofield is here. He's going to be taking us through the front pages of the newspapers for Wednesday. We've then got Johnny Hearn, who's going to talk us through what's happening at the Cannes Film Festival, plus he's got a couple of movies for us. And Anna Webb is here, a cat and dog behaviour expert and host of a Dog's Life podcast. And if you've got any questions you want me to ask her, then just send me a message on 87222 and I will ask her. But before that, going on across the pond in Manhattan, rapper and hip-hop producer Sean Diddy Coombs, known to a lot of people as P. Diddy, is on trial in New York facing charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy and transportation to engage in prostitution. The music mogul is accused of forcing his ex-partner, Cassie Ventura, to take part in drug-fueled sex sessions with male escorts, which he called freak-offs. She's been in court today for nearly 5 hours giving her evidence. Cassie is currently 8.5 months pregnant, and she shocked the courts by naming people that were complicit in what was going on. Now, I have to say at this point that P. Diddy denies all charges, apart from that of being a domestic abuser. His defence team are saying, well, he is a domestic abuser, but that's as bad as it gets. I happen to think that is pretty bad. But let's find out what's going on with Nima Rahmani, president of West Coast Trial Lawyers and former federal prosecutor. Nima, thank you so much for joining me. Would you mind talking us through where we are with the trial?
Today is day 2 of the trial, and the government put on its star witness. That, of course, is Cassie Ventura, Combs' longtime girlfriend of more than a decade. And she is laying out the graphic and explicit details of these freak-offs. And what separates sex trafficking from consensual sex here in the United States is the presence of force, fraud, or coercion. So the government is arguing coercion and force here. The coercion is the rampant drug use. I mean, so much that Ventura testified that she would vomit at times, and the force being the many guns that Combs had, his security that would set up the hotel rooms for these freak-offs. And Ventura testified that she felt pressured to do this, so much so that she felt that she was unable to say no.
It's the defence, of course, would argue that they were together for nearly 10 years. She could have walked at any point. This is often the defence we hear, actually, with domestic abusers as well. Why do these women stay? What, you know, surely she wasn't a prisoner. She was in her own home. She could have left at any point. How will that be justified?
That's a compelling argument, and I could tell you, as a former prosecutor who's handled many physical and sexual assault cases, as well as a current civil plaintiff's lawyer who represents these victims. That's the defense that's raised in every case. Well, why didn't you leave? I think jurors, everyone knows someone who's in a toxic relationship, and that's really the psychology of abuse. There will be expert witnesses, at least one that comes and testifies in this case, to explain why sometimes victims, they don't feel the power to leave, or whether it's the physical force or the manipulation that they just don't have the strength to do so. Now, I'm not saying that's going to carry the day, but that is going to be the real differentiator in this case. Does the jury believe that this was all consensual? She is a strong, independent, powerful woman. That's what the defense is trying to do, actually raise the stature of the victims here. Or is this someone who was so controlled by Combs that she was compelled to submit to these freak-offs against her will?
Were there any revelations from Cassie? I mean, my understanding is that the court was surprised that she named people that she said were complicit.
She has started to name members of Combs's inner circle, including Christina Joram, who was Combs' chief of staff. And I expect we're going to hear from some of those former employees, people that would set up the freak-offs, procure the sex workers, buy the baby oil, set up the cameras and the lights. This wasn't a one-man operation here. But really, I think the surprising details so far aren't necessarily who, but what. We're talking about some very explicit details of her being urinated on, baby oil all over the walls and doors, blood on the sheets because she was menstruating. Really some graphic details. And I think the jurors may be asking themselves, no one should or would consent to this. And I think that sort of shock and awe strategy is part and parcel of the prosecution's case here.
And my understanding is as well that she's now married and heavily pregnant. And I mean, it must be very distressing, actually. But her husband wasn't allowed in with her. Is that right?
Yes, so she is very pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant. So there was a concern that she may go into early labor and be unavailable. So that's why the government really wanted to put her on as quickly as possible. But her husband is a potential witness in the case. So in the United States in court, what you don't want is for witnesses who may testify later in the trial to be observing the trial, because then they may be tailoring their testimony to conform to previous witnesses. So generally speaking, any potential witness in the case, they have to be excluded from the courtroom. Doesn't matter if they're married to a witness or they're not. It's just a general rule in these cases. So that's what happened here.
It's very difficult. I mean, I can imagine that in the old days being the way to stop witnesses from, potential witnesses from knowing what's going on in a courtroom. But of course, we don't live in that world anymore. You and I are talking about what Cassie said. Everyone will know what Cassie said. The whole world knows what Cassie said. How safe is a jury in a case like this? There's no cameras allowed because it's a federal case. So there's no cameras in there, which is unusual for us as Brits. We were expecting to see cameras there, although we don't have them here. So you've got sketch artists. But how do you keep your prosecution or your defence clean in modern times?
It's very difficult. And like you said, there are no cameras in federal courts or even New York State courts. I'm here in Los Angeles, so we are used to cameras here in California. We're in Hollywood. So each jurisdiction matters and they can create their own rules. But like you said, I mean, this is a case that the entire world knows about. My parents don't even watch TV, and they've seen the 2016 video of Diddy beating Cassie Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel here in Los Angeles. And jurors, they're ordinary people. And whether they're on TikTok or Instagram or X, they can't help but be influenced by outside factors. So the judge, of course, instructs them not to be on social media, not to watch the news, to decide the case solely based on the facts and evidence in the case. The only real way to guarantee that, unfortunately, is to sequester the jury, take their electronics, lock them up, proverbially speaking, of course, not literally, but put them in a hotel for 2 months. That's such an imposition, and to take people away from their friends and family for that period of time. People already don't want to serve on juries in this country, and if you do that, it'll make people less likely. But that's really the only way to guarantee that none of that comes into the deliberations in the case.
But if you were defending P. Diddy in this case, that video footage that we're talking about here, where he beat Cassie, the most horrendous footage, anyone would agree with that. Would you try to get that dismissed? That wouldn't, I mean, it's too late because it's out there, but that is so prejudicial to this case.
Well, they tried to get it dismissed, saying that it was sped up, it was inaccurate. The judge let it in, and rightfully so. I mean, this is the important thing about video. Video doesn't lie. People can lie, witnesses, victims, criminal defendants lie all the time. This video was so powerful that Combs denied all these allegations after Cassie filed her lawsuit in November 2023. Combs settled it the next day, paid a significant eight-figure sum reportedly. He still denied the allegations. His homes in Los Angeles and Miami were raided. Combs denied the allegations. Only after CNN got a copy of that video in May of last year did he finally come out and issue a public apology. And that's what you're seeing in this case. The defense has to agree to some sort of physical violence. They're trying to separate the physical violence from sexual. And that makes sense because there's clear evidence of physical violence, but the physical violence isn't being charged in the case. It's potentially a racketeering act, but the charges are sex trafficking, prostitution, generally sex-related crimes. So you see the defense trying to walk this fine line, saying this was a mutually violent relationship when it comes to physical force, but all the sex was consensual. I don't know if they're going to be able to walk that line or not.
I mean, and that's really the legal point, isn't it? That actually, were I to be a juror and wondering if there had been coercion in terms of the sexual offences that Cassie claims and others claim, it would be really easy to see that violence and go, well, I'd pretty much do anything rather than go through that again. So it is so prejudicial. I just wonder how a jury was found that wouldn't go in to a case like this without a preconceived idea of how they're going to end up.
Well, that's one thing that makes this case very different. Normally, jurors walk into that courtroom with a blank slate. They don't know the parties. They don't know the evidence. But here, everyone knows who Sean Diddy Combs is, and everyone has seen that video. So much of jury selection was spent by the judge and the lawyers asking the jurors their views on Combs and that video and what they thought, because that is going to be the key piece of evidence in the case. And we know it was so because the government's very first witness was the security guard from that very hotel who's authenticating the video. So that's how powerful that video is.
It is quite extraordinary. Nima, I'm really interested about the witness list. Presumably they will have been given to each of the defence and the prosecution by now. Are there any surprises on that list, or can we expect last-minute surprise witnesses?
I think we can expect last-minute surprises. The witness list certainly hasn't been made public in terms of who they're going to call next. Everyone wants to know what other celebrities participated in the freak-offs.
Yeah.
Right? That's what everyone is asking. There's so much out there on social media, rumors, speculation. So far, no one yet, but we know, again, that this wasn't a one-man operation. There were other people who reportedly participated in these freak-offs at these infamous white parties. We'll see what names are named, if any, because I think that's the biggest bombshell that may shock not only the United States, but the entire world if a celebrity is named.
There must be a fair amount of people who are a little bit worried at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. If I attended one of Diddy's white parties or participated, I would have my lawyer on speed dial, because the consequences, both inside and outside the courtroom, can be dramatic. The last thing anyone in Hollywood wants is to be associated with this Diddy trial that's happening right now.
Just before I let you go, can I ask you about a different case, and that is the Epstein files? We were promised that the Americans were promised that these Epstein files would be released. Pam Bondi is saying that they're not going to be for a while. That is another case where there will be a lot of people who are very worried. And my understanding is the FBI are viewing 20,000 videos or clips or something. I don't know if it's true or not. It may just be a rumour. Are we ever going to see those files?
I don't know. You know, the day that the files were released was probably one of the most underwhelming releases I've ever. I had planned my entire day because I'm a legal analyst on TV. I thought, I mean, this was going to be the day where names were named. And really, Pam Bondi, I think, has a little bit of egg on her face to sort of build the hype and make the announcement, when really what was released were, you know, the contacts, which we already knew about, the flight logs, which everyone had seen. So certainly not a whole lot of new information. We'll see if anything actually finally does get released. At least according to Bondi and President Trump, that's something that they're committed to doing. But the question I have is, how long does it take to release the files? I think, frankly, that this smoking gun, the client list that everyone's talking about, I just don't think it exists, or at least in a documentary form, because otherwise, why wouldn't it have been released by now?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I do think that, again, there will be a lot of people who it's in their best interest that this is not released. We know that even Donald Trump himself was a visitor to Epstein Island, or whatever it was, Fantasy Island, whatever it was called. We know there are a lot of very powerful people, not least of which are Prince Andrew as well. There must be something, but will it be redacted? Will it be... Is this the stalling process? Because it makes them look all as guilty as hell.
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, there were other people who participated in the sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that's pretty clear. All the names are out there. There have been civil lawsuits. There have been allegations. You know, just, is there a black book? Is there a document that identifies all this? I mean, the best person to know would obviously be Ghislaine Maxwell, and she's serving significant time, and she's not talking, which is surprising in and of itself. I can tell you that I put more than 1,000 people in federal prison, and I can count on 2 fingers, only 2 that didn't cooperate with me, because often there's a significant reason, a benefit in cooperating. You get a reduced sentence. So obviously Maxwell's maintaining her innocence. She's not talking. This document, at least, is nowhere to be found. So I do believe there were other participants. Who those were, it has to come from either a paper or someone that had the knowledge. And unfortunately, at least up until now, no one's talking, and that document hasn't been disclosed.
Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? Listen, it's been fabulous talking to you. Thank you. Brilliant there. Nima Rahmani, president of West Coast Trial Lawyers and former federal prosecutor. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Good evening to you. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you. And we're talking at midnight, the phone-in at midnight, about being a functioning addict. I'm not entirely sure what those words mean, because I've only ever... Well, I suppose my brother was functioning for a while because I didn't know. But then he ceased to be able to function, and now he's really damaged himself. But Bradley Wiggins has revealed that he was a functioning cocaine addict. He said that he was on cocaine for such a long time and nobody knew about it. He realised, though, at some point that he had a bad problem. But he being a functioning addict, people wouldn't realise I was high most of the time for many years. Now, I know people who take cocaine. In this industry, it would be impossible, I'm afraid, not to. But I think I always know when they're high. I think I always know their eyes are dilated for a start. They usually repeat the same old boring rubbish. And they're rude to waiters. I mean, I think they're cocky and arrogant. I think I can tell. So if you are a functioning addict of any description, opioids, cannabis, I think it'd be more difficult to function on cannabis, wouldn't it? Would it? I don't know. Cocaine, heroin even. How do you function whilst being an addict? How is that possible? And is it possible to function as an addict for years and years and years? Or do you just kind of have a little bit more or a little bit more? I have habits, I think. I used to smoke. I don't know whether I was addicted or not. I certainly stopped smoking very, very easily. I don't think I've got an addictive personality. I can go weeks, months, even a year without a drink if I feel like it. I don't feel like I have to drink if I'm in a social environment. All of those things. So I don't think I've got that kind of addictive behaviour. But is that a thing? Are you addictive by behaviour? Is it something that you have no control over? 117 tons of cocaine is taken in Britain every year. I mean, just imagine what 117 tons of cocaine looks like. The biggest cohort of these cocaine takers are what's known as the silver snorters. People in their middle age, starting, well, you're not really silver in middle age, are you? But you know what I mean. Do you take drugs, opioids? Maybe you have to function and you're on painkillers, or I don't know, something that you know you've got a problem with, but you manage to function, you manage to go to work, you manage to keep your family together, you manage to keep your home together, and yet you can't manage any of those things without taking whatever drug it is that you are addicted to. I'd love to hear from you on this, what it means to be a functioning addict. 0344 499 1000, and you can message me with the number 87222. Time to find out now, though, how you could be in with a chance of winning a weekend away in Munich at the end of May to watch the biggest game in European football, the Champions League final. We're also putting £5,000 in your pocket to spend any way you like.
Win a once-in-a-lifetime trip to watch the Champions League final live. Go to talksport.com/win for your chance to embark on the ultimate odyssey of football ecstasy. With 2 tickets to the Champions League final live at the iconic Munich Football Arena, Germany, including flights, accommodation, and an uber-massive £5,000 in your hand.
How about that?
Enter online now at talksport.com/win. Terms and conditions apply. Achtung, baby.
18 plus, UK, excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win all of that, simply text the word football to 83338 by the 16th of May at 11 p.m. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or send your name and number by post to Champions League final competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 21st of May. This is a TalkSport limited competition run on TalkSport Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Yeah, so don't miss out on that fabulous prize courtesy of our colleagues in TalkSport. Good luck.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good evening to you. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you. And many of you will know, if you're regular listeners or viewers of this programme, that I am a little bit animal obsessed, and certainly with my boys, my dogs. It used to be just Bailey, who you've met many times. He's been on the show. And now you've also met Humphrey, who is the new terror in my life, my new puppy, who's now, I think he's 11 weeks old now. Naughtiest dog you've ever seen in your life. He has got that in his eyes, you know, that thing where he's always just looking for trouble. But he is settling in nicely. Well, we decided again to get the cat and dog behaviour expert and host of a Dog's Life podcast, Anna Webb, to help me out with this and with anybody who's got a puppy or other dog or pet issues. So Humphrey was going to come in today, Anna, but I'd forgotten he'd got his vaccines this morning. So he was a little bit sort of sleepy and dopey, so I thought I should leave him at home. But he's definitely getting there, and he's very naughty.
Well, you know, Petrie, look, puppies are supposed to be naughty. That's the whole point. And, you know, having a naughty pup around, it keeps you on your toes.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it's a way of us staying in the moment. I've had a particularly chaotic time since we last spoke. I won't go into it, but it involves my cat. And, you know, I was thinking about our chat this evening, and I was thinking, you know what? My whole evening has been so distracted by various pets.
Yeah.
I haven't actually got anything really done that I intended to do. But, you know, I feel great. I've been on my feet, catering to everyone's needs, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, I wouldn't either. But he's so funny because he's sort of taken over Bailey's bed. He likes Bailey's bed and he tries to sleep with him in there, and Bailey tolerates it to a degree. But I went into my bedroom the other day because the bed is by my bed, and it was sort of it was like a magpie nest of socks and bits that Humphrey had found around the house, and he's really kind of, this is mine now, and dealing with all of that. He does make me laugh. In fact, they both make me laugh. They're brilliant. But you mentioned a cat. I have a cat as well, called Edith, Miss Edith, and she has always ruled the roost. Really, although she was introduced, she was a kitten when Bailey was already, I think, 5 years old. But she's very bossy, but she has not been allowed in the house by Bailey because she whacked Humphrey round the face when she first met the puppy. So Bailey's now chasing her, and he never used to. How can I break that dynamic? What can I do about that?
Right, well, one way to do it is to have Bailey on a light indoor lead, so that when Edith is coming in through the cat flap, you can hear it go clank, clank, and then get Bailey's focus, put Bailey into his dog bed, and follow through the cue to keep him in one place, which is just practicing, you know, a sit-stay. And if he sort of gets out, you're putting him back in. So you're not really focusing on Edith particularly. You're focusing only on Bailey and letting Edith just do what she is going to do because she's a cat, but keeping Bailey's attention and basically directing him to do an alternative behavior rather than chase Edith. He's in his bed, and so the praise and the treats will come with him being in one place rather than harassing Edith.
He's never done it before, though.
Well, this is interesting, but you see, bringing a puppy into an already quite stable, you know, environment, of course, you know, triggers changes. It's a bit like with people. You add an extra person at a dinner party or whatever, the conversation will be different, the dynamic's different. And it's the same really with animals. Also, Bailey, I know he's older, and he was, the last time we spoke, he was a bit perhaps indifferent. Oh, you might see my cat in a minute. He was a bit indifferent to little Humphrey, but maybe he is sort of thinking, yes, I'm going to protect Humphrey now, or maybe he's thinking, this at last I've got an excuse to harass Edith because I'm acting like the big brother and I'm not going to let Edith bully Humphrey. Any number of different thought processes could be going through their minds, but because we never really know exactly what our dog or our cat is actually thinking, we can only, make assumptions through their behaviours.
Yeah, it does seem like he's just being protective of Humphrey, but the trouble is he's now teaching Humphrey to chase the cat. And
right.
Humphrey's now, he's gobby as well, barking at the cat and trying to chase her as well, because he's seeing that from Bailey. So suddenly this dynamic has completely changed, because they were, Bailey and Edith were fine.
So, I mean, then it's to think of somewhere for Edith maybe to retreat to.
Yeah, because she's got her own bedroom, actually.
Right.
Well, she thinks it's her bedroom. So she can retreat in there and Humphrey can't get into it, so...
That's great. And lots of high areas for her to jump on where the dogs can't get to her. And I'm sure things will settle down. But again, it's about creating boundaries and rewarding alternative behaviours if you can. And then they'll get the gist of it.
But I guess a lot of people, when they're introducing another pet, are going to see dynamics change. And that might put people off. But do they settle? Do they find their place in this strange little pack that you've created?
Yes, I mean, it can take a bit of time. It really depends on the animals. It depends on your relationship with them in the first place. And, and the age and the health of dogs, and the same with cats. Also, it's very important that the people involved in the situation treat everybody equally, So it's very easy with a puppy to think, great, gosh, I've got so much training to do. We've got to do this today. We've got to go to the park today. We've got to work on our sit cue and our down cue. And I know I've got to train my sit in 11 different places for it to be a proofed cue.
11 different places?
Yes, until it's considered a sit. So, the bus stop, the train station. Yeah, I know. Just in your front room, Petrie, that's not going to work.
Oh, no, I thought I'd crack that.
Sorry to tell you. No, it's got to be your garden. You can even maybe do a sit in your loo, but it's got to be 11 different places. Technically, that's apparently what you have to do. That's what I recommend everybody does. And you can see why, because every single environment, the sit for the dog is going to be completely different. There's going to be a whole load of different smells, sights and sounds, in a bus stop compared to your local fruit and veg store or somewhere, or your local cafe or your park. So it's about proofing it so that any distractions, pigeons or people, the dog's going to ignore them and listen to your cue.
11. Oh, God. I've started walking him on a lead. Up and down the garden. He did not like it.
No.
And was chewing the lead. But actually, he's very quickly, again, he is smart, this one. And I think he very quickly realised that actually it was going to be okay. But I haven't yet been able to take him out on the street because of his vaccines.
No, that's right. So I think it's a week now, if he's had them today, for them to settle down and, get over any peaky feelings post-vaccinations or whatever. But, to keep up the work indoors and in the garden, and do take him outside so he can just get an idea of the traffic noises around you, the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, I've got a papoose that I put him in and take him with me.
That's great. Yeah. So he's seeing the outdoor world, so getting an idea of what's going on. That's really brilliant. And persevere, with any biting of the lead, just stop, take it out of his mouth, reward a sit so that you're rewarding something different to walking along, and then carry on walking, try and keep the lead as long as you can and keep calling him back to your side. So you've got the heel cue. If he goes off a bit, then you call him back in. That's a lot better than having him on a tight lead the whole time, because then they can resent that, create resistance, which you don't really want either. But generally keep him beside you, not in front and not too far behind.
What do you do with a dog or a cat indeed that is really food motivated. I mean, again, Bailey, he is treat motivated, but he won't take his treat from a stranger. He won't take food off a table. He won't take crisps out of a bowl. You could put ham on a low table and he wouldn't touch it. Right? He's never been that sort of dog. Brilliant. Absolutely the perfect dog. My friends, a couple of my friends just hate him for it because they call him a mummy's boy. But Humphrey, on the other hand, would take food from anybody at any time. He's always looking for food. He can't be hungry because I feed him his 3 meals a day. And he gets his little treats for when he's doing the right thing. But he seems to be ravenous. How do you deal with that? Because of course you don't want your dog to be hungry.
Well, does he have to? I'm thinking he might be a bit overtired at times, Petrie.
He's not sleeping enough, definitely.
Right, because you know what it's like when you're overtired. It's like you don't know what to do. You're just kind of acting a bit on impulse. Oh, there's loads of cheese on the table. Fantastic. I'm just going to eat it all because it's obviously there for me to have. He also doesn't really know any boundaries yet. So obviously having a plate of cheese on a table is a super way of training him away from that distraction, which is the cheese. That, the etiquette's got to be you sit on the floor or in your bed, Humphrey, and when I'm ready, I might call you over, you sit, and I give you a tiny slither of cheese. This is how it works in this home. So all of these boundaries are so important for the future, for when you have this coming around and, there's hustle and bustle. You don't want him to get trodden on, but getting enough sleep and rest, to put him away in a room in the afternoon and just get him to sleep, have the radio on, obviously, as a bit of background hubbub, settle him, with one of these beehive-shaped interactive toys, that you put nice chicken in the middle, just keep him busy, get him to wear himself out, and then he'll conk out. Really, he does need to be sleeping 3/4 of the day because you've got to try and make him. I mean, put him in a room on his own. Maybe that's the time you take Bailey for a walk.
Yeah.
And kind of restructure your day. Really, it's 1 hour on, 3 hours sleep. Because he is only 11 weeks old. He is still really young. And that's the beauty of it all. He's like a ball of clay that you can you can craft him into being the perfect dog. You have every opportunity to do that. And you are. So that's really good.
Oh, I wish. I'm just thinking I could do with 1 hour awake, 3 hours of sleep, but that doesn't happen for me either. Listen, Anna, thank you. It's brilliant to talk to you. We'll talk very soon. A cat and dog behaviour expert and host of A Dog's Life podcast. Thanks very much indeed. We're heading to Cannes next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you, and with me now is somebody I have taught to sit in 11 different places, and that's Johnny Hearn, filmmaker, broadcaster and talk film reporter. Hello, Johnny.
Hello, good evening. Yes, I'm in one of those positions right now.
Well done. I'm very proud of you. That's very good. I'll give you a treat later. Right, you've got some movies for us.
Yes, I'm going to start with a film called The Surfer, which is a new film with Nicolas Cage. Now, I imagine Nicolas Cage's answer phone says, "Hi, this is Nick, I'll do it," because he tends to just do so many films every year. I think he was in about 7 movies that came out a couple of years ago.
Last year, didn't he say he was going to retire?
Yeah, he'll never retire.
No.
He makes so many movies a year. A lot of them, I have to say, are not very good. No. Right? But occasionally one comes along that actually is quite good, and this is one of them. So he plays this guy who was born in Australia in a small little coastal town in Australia, but had spent most of his life in America, and he moves back with his son, and because his old family home comes up for sale, and he wants to go back to his childhood home and to surf in this place where he used to tour the world writing about surfing. So he wants to go back, but he finds that the locals are not very welcoming to outsiders. If you're not local, you're not allowed to surf there, is their mantra. And not only are they sort of very against outsiders, but they're very violently against outsiders, and they make his life an absolute misery. And they steal things from him. They ruin his life. All he wants to do is just buy this house and go surfing with his son in this tiny little bay, and they just make things really, really difficult. All the while, he's under this sort of blazing hot sunshine, which just turns him from this sort of very respectable man into almost like a homeless tramp by the end of the movie. It's a fascinating sort of portrayal of how very quickly humanity can go into this sort of downward spiral.
I mean, I love Nicolas Cage. Even his rubbish movies, there's something about him. I hated him for years, but I understand that is a journey that most people take with Nick Cage. You often look at him and think, he is such a bad actor, and then suddenly you love him. I don't know how it happens, but maybe it's an age thing. Right, you've got a clip of The Surfer. Let's have a look or a listen to The Surfer, which is in cinemas now.
It was magic here when I was your age. My old house is finally for sale, and I'm buying it.
Just want to go home now.
Wake up.
Locals only. Don't live here, don't surf here.
I'm not surfing.
Men are like engines. You've got to release a little steam now and then or you'll blow up.
That's my board, and I want it back.
Listen, mate, I think you've been out in the sun too long. Before you can have everything, you have to experience nothing.
What?
Pathetic.
I mean, that looks interesting. A bit psychotic.
Yeah, it's a very weird film.
Yeah.
It is. It's all that. It's very weird. It's kind of like the cinematic equivalent of having sunstroke because of the way that it's shot. It's sort of like imagine The Wicker Man, but set in Australia with surfers.
Oh right, okay. I got you now.
As it started, I didn't really like it to start with, but the more it went on, the more and more I grew to really like this film. And Nicolas Cage, actually, the more kind of degenerate his character becomes, the better he is. And by the end of it, I absolutely love this film. It's really different. It's something, it's much better than most of the films that he does, and he's really, really good in this. And by the end of it, I absolutely loved it.
Brilliant. What classification is it?
So this is a 15 certificate.
15 certificate, excellent. There's another film that you've got our producer Gabriella excited about.
Yes, yes. I did wonder if you knew any Italians who like cooking. It's kind of a perfect combination for this show, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is a film called Nonnas. Apologies, Gabriella, if I've mispronounced
Nonnas.
that. Nonna's. Okay, right. So Vince Vaughn plays this Italian-American in Staten Island who, after his mother dies, he has this idea to open up a restaurant. But rather than just employ chefs, what he wants to do is recreate what it's like to eat at home. And so he hires nonnas, which is Italian grandmothers, to make homemade Italian food in this restaurant. So he hires these 4 Italian grandmothers who all kind of fight and argue amongst themselves because they come from different parts of Italy. So there's a lot of rivalry between them. But they make this incredible, wonderful food. But he also struggles to actually get this restaurant to be a success because the locals in the area don't want them there and they see them as outsiders. It's a very kind of parochial environment. It's actually based on a true story, which makes it really interesting.
It's on Netflix, so it's available now. Let's have a look or a listen to Nonna's.
I'm going through my mom and Nonna's recipes, and then I realized food is love. So I want to open an Italian restaurant. What are you, crazy? Who are you going to get to come down and cook? Nonna's. Other real-life Italian grandmothers.
I am from Bologna. I spit on Bologna. Spit on Sicily, okay?
I want them to make the dishes that they were passed on from their family. I want to share it with everybody.
This is my main dish, capusella. Dear God save us.
Oh, that's what smells. I thought maybe it was me. Oh, no.
It has to work because it's not just a restaurant. It's more about family, especially for people who may not have family anymore. Maybe the one good idea we can take from this is not to fight in the kitchen.
Oh,
And that's a movie, right? What classification is that? That's got to be easier.
So it's sort of a PG. On Netflix they say it's a 7+, but it's basically it's a PG certificate.
It looks really cute.
It is. It's cute. It's gentle. It's funny in places. It's not kind of the things aren't as easy as you would imagine it would be. So it's not as much of a feel-good movie as you might think, because there are a lot of problems. With a lot of problems along the way, every time you think, oh yeah, now it's all going to come together, it doesn't, and then there's another problem and another problem. But of course, ultimately, it is a feel-good film because there is success in the end. Obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have made it. And it is based on a true story, and it is very cute and it's fun, and it's if you like food and you like mad Italian women, then it's
Well, I work with one, so I do.
Exactly.
I do like them, yeah. But also, I just love that dynamic of older women getting these roles as well. I think that it's just so good that these women are now getting these chunky roles, and they're not. I mean, although they're playing nonnas, they're not playing the traditional role of just being somebody's grandma, who is the rest of the film is about.
They make the film completely. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. And now, look, Cannes Film Festival has kicked off. This is your happy place.
Yes.
What can we expect from Cannes this year?
One thing about Cannes is that they have a mixture of in the festival. They have a mixture of films from directors that have been there before, and new directors, and from all around the world. So it's a very kind of artistic film festival, but a lot of it is directors that have won there before or have screened there before. So I'm going to go through a few of the sort of well-known names. So the one that I'm really looking forward to is the new Wes Anderson movie, The Phoenician Scheme, which, like every Wes Anderson movie, stars everybody you can possibly imagine. If you look at the roll call of people who are in it, it just goes on and on forever. It looks like every other Wes Anderson movie. I'm a big fan, so I'm really looking forward to that. The other film I'm really looking forward to is the new one from Richard Linklater, a film called Nouvelle Vague, and it's the story about Jean-Luc Godard, the legendary French filmmaker, making his classic movie Breathless, à bout de souffle, and it's shot very much in the same kind of style that film was shot, and it's in English and French as well. It's the first film that Richard Linklater's done that's not entirely in English, and that looks like a fascinating idea because I love Jean-Luc Godard's movies. There was a biopic about him a couple of years ago that played at Cannes, which was really good, and so I'm really looking forward to this, particularly because Richard Linklater is a very imaginative filmmaker. So if he's going to shoot it in the same style as Jean-Luc Godard, then I think that would be great.
And this is the biggest shop window, isn't it, for movies?
Absolutely,
and Nora won the Palme d'Or and then went on to win the Oscar. So.
And that happens a lot. Yeah, it's a great precursor to the big award ceremonies for the end of this year and next year. Yeah, Cannes is very much kind of the champion of new films, and something like Anora that came out of nowhere. It was a little independent movie, and but that that's the kind of the dream that you can have at Cannes. It doesn't have to be a big budget movie.
And they don't have to be big movies either to get recognised. There's the shorts as well. They it is really quite unique in that.
Yeah, and they're very much about the art and about filmmaking at Cannes as well. It's unlike some other festivals that, yes, they do screen big budget movies, like the Indiana Jones films, for example, but they're never in competition. They're just kind of there to get a bit of publicity for the festival. But
brilliant. Listen, enjoy that. We'll hear from you very soon. Papers next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, you are with Petrie and you are with Talk, and with me is Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. It's good to see you again.
Oh, good to see you
It
too.
does feel like a very long time.
It has been too long.
Yeah, it has been way too long. We need to sort that out. Now, before we get onto the papers, functioning addicts.
Yeah.
It's something that I find really difficult to understand. I mean, we're talking here, Bradley Wiggins has revealed that he was what he refers to as a functioning cocaine addict. I mean, clearly that functioning didn't go well for him. So that's where I wonder where the functioning becomes dysfunction, because he lost his wife, he lost his home, he lost everything when he gave up cycling. So I don't understand. He says he was doing so much cocaine, but nobody knew that he was high all the time.
I mean, it's quite remarkable, isn't it? I mean, I've never been an addict myself, but from what I read, a lot of addicts are very good, obviously, at hiding what they do from their loved ones, because maybe they're ashamed, embarrassed. And
I don't think it's a shame or embarrassment. I think it's because they want to continue doing it and they don't want somebody to stop them.
Yeah, and they want to maintain a facade of normality. And I guess there must come a tipping point where it all just comes crashing down, whether that is maybe they start taking
Too
even
much,
more,
yeah.
and it just makes it impossible to function, you know, because I mean, I guess in journalism it's not an issue now really, but back in the day, you know, the 70s, 80s, probably into the 90s as well, there was a lot of functioning
There was a huge
alcoholism.
amount of,
People
but
were,
also cocaine use.
Yeah.
I mean, I know presenters, obviously I shan't name any, who were definitely taking a line or two before a show.
Yeah. It's remarkable, really.
I don't know. I mean, I can't even have one alcoholic drink before a show
either.
because I can't.
I'm doing this,
yeah.
I'm doing another.
No,
I don't drink at all.
I can't. I literally can't do it. But a lot of people say, "Oh, just have a glass of wine." No.
Yeah, no, and there's just no point.
I can't do it.
I don't think anyway.
No.
You don't want people thinking he sounds a little bit off.
Yeah, but I need all my brain power.
No, absolutely, no,
I'm
absolutely.
juggling.
Well,
you know, this is juggling, right? This is,
you're not working at full capacity.
No.
If you're a bit inhibited.
I'm just fascinated because when you read into how many people take cocaine in this country, and how many people are functioning, you've got doctors, dentists taking
that's
Novocaine.
Scary. People with
people with
literally
proper jobs.
life in your proper jobs.
Proper jobs, not like this. Where you know, people who drive trains, people who, you know, all of these people, and a lot of you know, there's. Do you know how many tons of cocaine is snorted in this country every year?
No.
Tons. 117.
Is that gone up?
Cocaine use has generally gone down.
Right.
But I'm just trying to imagine what 117 tons of cocaine, because cocaine is quite light, right? It's a powder.
I think so, yeah.
So that must be like a mountain.
Yeah, huge.
Huge. So 117 tons of cocaine, and the growing demographic of people taking cocaine is middle-aged people. In fact, it's become known as silver snorters.
Really?
Yeah. The young, you would think, would be the ones, 16 to 24. They're the greatest users of things like cannabis, right?
Yeah.
But cocaine, possibly because of the price of it, I don't know. I've never been a drug taker, far too much of a control freak. But no, it's older generations. You've got, you know, mums at the school gate.
I remember reading about that and being, my wife was laughing at me for being really naive. I was like, what? Honestly, so the mums that I see when I drop off my daughter in the morning could well be off home or via their dealer.
Yeah.
You know,
to take a few lines of coke to get them through the
day until pick-up time.
Yeah.
It's just, that blew my mind, actually. I just had never even considered it, but I guess, you know, people do all sorts behind closed doors.
And there was a statistic, wasn't there? What is it? 1 in every 2 banknotes, something like that, has got cocaine on it.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, and I think it's an issue amongst young men going into football these days. So in my day, you would have maybe a couple of pints, and then go to the game. Whereas now it's, and I don't really go to football as much as I used to, but you know, you go into the toilets at half time, and it is like awash with young guys doing coke. So I think it's quite a big issue at football, because you're not allowed, certainly in Scotland, you can't drink at all in the ground, whereas at least in England you can't take it to your seat, but there are bars in the ground that you can drink at half time and before the game. So you don't have that at all in Scotland. So that's how they get up for the game, is they take coke.
But the thing is, though, that, like I said, I know people who take cocaine. I think it's impossible not to spot somebody who's on coke. I don't know how you would hide that.
Yeah.
Because most of the people I know that take cocaine, and there's not, I mean, it used to be more, but there are fewer of them now, because I suppose they've stopped doing it, or I've stopped hanging out with them. But they become incredibly repetitive in what they're saying. They become quite boorish. And you can see the eyeballs are dilated, and they, you know, they're
that's another
tight-jawed, something like that. Talking
kind of,
like that.
Yeah, constantly clenching their jaw. And do they not like sniff quite a lot as well?
Yeah.
bit of a giveaway.
So I just now I want to sniff.
No.
But no, I just think it must be very difficult to think to be a functioning cocaine addict and for nobody to notice.
No.
That's what I find confusing.
Well, it depends. What do you mean by functioning? Is it holding down a job?
Well, I guess
getting yourself through the day.
Yeah, I guess what I would describe as functioning, being a functioning addict of any description, is that you carry on
your
as
normal daily
normal.
life.
Yeah.
But you're just sort of in either drink induced,
or you
haze.
have to take a small amount of the drug often to keep even.
Keep yourself on a level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I do know about addicts, because my brother was one, alcohol, is that they are sneaky, like you were saying. They really are sneaky.
Yeah.
And I used to think that it was something to do with shame or with not wanting people to know, but I absolutely firmly believe now that it is to do with wanting to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody knows you're an addict, they're likely to confront you about it. Whereas if they don't know, so you hide all the bottles everywhere, or things like that. And I would notice my brother, if he and I went to the theatre, for example, he'd go and get the drinks at half time, and I would see him at the bar knocking back a double.
Yeah, that's a classic
before he
sign,
brought
isn't it?
back.
Before
he brought back the drinks.
So you don't know he's had more than you, or you're
exactly.
not supposed to.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah,
but I would see him doing that and go, why have you just done that? Oh, I've had a really difficult day. It's not normal.
Yeah.
So, and then when he started drinking more and more and more, he saw me less and less and less, because I was definitely going to call him out.
You were on it.
Definitely. I was going to call him out, and I did call him out eventually.
Yeah.
I've got a very disturbing video of me going round to his house when I got a call from a neighbour and just saying, you are an alcoholic, you've got to stop this. He was incoherent, he couldn't hold his head up even, he was an absolute mess. And all you could hear is, it looks really shameful from my point of view, because I've got no sympathy for him, no empathy, no nothing, I'm just being really cold with him, but I'd been instructed to be like that.
Yeah. And it's difficult as well,
it's
for
very,
someone
very
you love.
hard. Yeah, very, very hard. But also, by that stage, we'd completely had enough of it. It's very hard to like an alcoholic or a drug addict. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Loving somebody is different, but liking them, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
It
Well,
really
it turns
is.
them into a different person, doesn't it?
It's just impossible, because the only relationship they want is with the substance of their choice. They're not interested in a relationship with you unless you can facilitate that addiction, or at least indulge them while they do it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, and I struggled for a long, long time with not liking him.
Yeah, because
I felt it was my duty to be there and support him and do all that, but you can't do anything for an alcoholic.
No. It's incredibly difficult, isn't it?
But I just imagine all these people who are, there's stories here. I was binging on cocaine 4 days a week.
I wonder whether he realised at the time that he was an addict, and can they admit to themselves, if you're functioning, you think, well, I'm not an alcoholic because I can still do my job. I can still look after the kids, I'd still
that's
bring
what
in.
people do. Yeah.
So I can't be an addict.
I can't be an addict. He used to say to me, I'm not an addict. I'm alcohol dependent.
Right.
But I'm not an addict. I was going, it's the same blooming thing, you idiot.
That's the definition, surely.
Exactly. And then, and he still uses that actually as an excuse. But he now he has alcoholic dementia, which was caused by his alcoholism, which has devastated his life. I mean, it's completely devastated his life.
Yeah.
And he's younger than me. He's got a walking frame. All of these things. It's absolutely devastating. But he would say, "I'm not an alcoholic because I don't sit on a park bench with a bottle of gin or a bottle." And I think that has possibly been a problem of our society. Is that we've always, portrayed an alcoholic as being a knockdown, falling down, homeless, drunk, on a park bench with a brown paper wrapped round a bottle. That's not
a wino.
That's not what they are in reality. And my brother was able to hide from he's never admitted it, still to this day, that he was an alcoholic. because I'm not that. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
That wasn't me.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
It's very sad.
It just destroys lives. There's one mother here. I'm a wealthy mother with a perfect life, but I've snorted cocaine for 25 years and still doing it.
Yeah.
Found a husband that would indulge it.
So the husband knows.
Husband. Yeah, they do it together.
Astonishing.
And she said, "I'm not going to give it up." Yeah, her daughter's now 22, who knows that her mother's taking cocaine. She's not giving it up. It fascinates me.
That is extraordinary.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It is.
I mean,
maybe it's a Scotsman in as well. I just think of all that money you've spent. I mean, you think what you could have done with that money.
I know.
If you weren't spending it on cocaine.
I know.
Or
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
It really, really is. It's terrifying. But I'm really interested as to how are people really functioning, or
well, maybe they are functioning, but not functioning as well as they might. You know, maybe it is holding them back. You know, maybe that's stopping them from doing more. They are getting by. They're able to, get up in the morning and dress themselves and look after the family, go to work, come back, make dinner and all that.
Yeah.
But who's to say they couldn't achieve more?
Achieve much more
If they weren't using
I just
substances.
think it must be so obvious to everybody, but I'd be fascinated to hear from people who've managed to hide an addiction like this, and how they've managed to do that, because I do think they've become very clever at that. So anyway, Bradley Wiggins, who knew? He managed to hide it from us.
Yeah, that's true. He has had a lot of issues, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he has had...
He's had his father was
murdered.
murdered.
The terrible upbringing.
His dad was murdered at the age of 55 when Lance was very young. I mean, it's a heck of a lot to go through.
Yeah.
But yeah. How many people are hiding their addictions? I'd love to hear about that. Let's have a look at Los Angeles Times. I'm addicted to American news at the moment.
There's a lot of it.
Incredibly bad for my health.
There's a lot of it.
Right, so... Oh, gosh, there's a lot on this front page, isn't there? Los Angeles Times.
They do cram a lot onto the front pages,
they really
American
do.
newspapers.
They're good stories as well. Let's have a look, first of all. Trump pursues deals as he visits the Middle East. Yeah,
I mean, this is Trump in his element, really, isn't it? He is, we hear about it again and again, the art of the deal. This is what it's all about. He wants to basically make as much money for America and possibly himself as he possibly can. And he has, it would appear, signed a hugely lucrative arms deal with Saudi Arabia. Now, obviously, it's controversial given
that they
Saudis'
support Hamas,
human rights record and all of that. But he's nothing if not a pragmatist, Trump. And if it involves somebody writing a huge cheque to the US government, then I think he's willing to turn a blind eye to pretty much anything.
He said he wanted $1 trillion. He was going to get $1 trillion deal. I think that's the GDP. Saudi Arabia, so I don't think he's going to get that. And also, it's all very well. Trump said, to round it up to $1 trillion. It's like, but this is not. It's not rounding up from 600 billion to $1 trillion. That's nearly double it. But it also is a case of, look, it's all very well saying that this money is going to come in, but we know with these huge investments they take. Could be decades before you see any return on that. It's not like America suddenly gets 600 billion and they're able to spend it on their debt.
No, of course not. No, you're right. It is, even for Saudi Arabia, it is an awful lot of money.
It is an awful lot of money, and it will be over several years.
Yeah, but it's a nice big number that he can trumpet, if you pardon my pun. And a lot of American voters will say, well, that's exactly why we voted for this guy.
Yeah, 350 billion in weaponry. The sequel coming 8 years later, almost to the day, promises much the same in the way of pageantry and purchases, only more so. What do you make of the $400 million jet that Qatar are bribing him with?
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems to be, completely unconstitutional from what I was reading today, that you are not allowed as president...
the Fifth Amendment,
to take a gift from a king, another country's, leader, king, prince, whatever, unless you receive congressional approval. Now, I don't see that being forthcoming, but he seems to be adamant that he's going to accept it, and then he runs it as Air Force One, and then I believe once he's no longer president, he keeps it in the presidential library. Hell of a library.
Hell of a library.
Big library.
I had to look up what a presidential library was.
It isn't an actual library, is it?
I thought it was. I thought. Well, I didn't know. I'd not heard the term before, and it literally is a kind of a holding place for. It can be a building, it can be a warehouse, it can be a literal library where all of the things, like the copies of the executive orders that were signed, that'd be a big library for Donald Trump, and things pertinent to their. There's an Obama library, for example. How do you park a 747 in this library? And this is what they're saying, is it is going to cost the American taxpayer somewhere in the region, it could be as much as $5 billion to convert this 13-year-old, it's old, palace in the sky into Trump Force One. He wants it to be called Trump Force One. And it could cost billions because they've got to strip it back to the bolts.
Of course, yeah.
To make sure there's no spyware in there.
Yeah.
They've got to then rebuild it completely with all the hospital that Air Force One carries, all the equipment, the safety equipment. I mean, it's going to take years and billions.
Yeah.
So it's not a free plane. And then he gets to keep it.
I know. Well, yeah, absolutely.
That's just not on.
No, well, Sebastian Gorka, who is a particularly odious individual.
Oh, yes, I do. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
He was being interviewed on the radio earlier today, and he was asked about this. And, after dismissing it as, this is Trump derangement syndrome, this is bias, why are you asking me about this? He then said, well, I like my head of state to be able to save the taxpayer $400 million.
But he's not.
He's not, absolutely, as you've just said, but that's how they're going to try and sell it. And apparently as well, he was saying, well, Boeing, who I've been promising to provide a new Air Force One for years, and I've never done it. It's running massively over budget and behind schedule. So he's perfectly entitled. If someone is handing you a free jet, then why shouldn't you take it?
In so many ways, we know there's no such thing as a free anything.
Of course. Well, that is the other question: is what are Qatar looking for in return?
Exactly.
They're not doing it out of the goodness of their health. They don't.
And it'll be really interesting, actually, to see how much. Look, Donald Trump has a reputation of what I would call being a cushion, taking on the last impression of the person who the last sat on him, right? And he is known to listen to the loudest voice in the room, and this is why he pivots all the time and flip-flops all the time, because somebody will say to him, green is yellow, and he'll go, oh yeah, no, I can see that now, and then somebody will come in and say, no, yellow is blue, and so he'll go, oh no, I can see that now. And it really will be interesting if the Middle East now really pressures him on a two-state solution with Israel and Palestine, and the Gaza Strip particularly, which Israel has now said they are going to annex. It quite rightly, Netanyahu is very concerned about this 3-day visit because Trump could watch him pivot.
No, absolutely, and as you say,
he'll pivot for the money.
Yeah, in 3 days, he can completely.
Anything could happen.
He can change his views, then back again and back again. Yeah. So, no, I can absolutely understand why Netanyahu's nervous,
he's really
because
concerned.
You'll have a lot of Arab leaders in his ear saying, "Well, have you thought about this? Maybe this is what we should."
And he's keen to push through the Abraham Accord, and the only way that's going to be agreed, and any resolution with Israel and the Middle East, is if there's a two-state solution. I don't know how he's going to achieve that from his position currently.
No, and the two-state solution has been the settled view of
the
America,
whole region,
the West, the region, for as long as I can remember.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it'll be fascinating to see.
It really will be interesting to see
what opinion he emerges with when he gets back to America.
Yeah, who knows? He doesn't know, probably.
No, definitely not. He's the last one.
Just very quickly, US and China reach a trade truce. This has been seen as a loss for Donald Trump.
Yeah, of course, he's trying to present it as a reset. But as the article points out, all that they've done basically is go back to where they were originally, before he started all this.
Yeah.
So he seems to, he sort of inflames it, starts this war, then reaches a deal that brings him back to square one, and then claims it as a victory.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
that's
bizarre.
just what he does.
Yeah.
But yeah, what they're saying is, it will still, it's unlikely to prevent prices from going up.
It's too late now. The damage pretty much has been done. But it's very much like going and setting fire to your own house and then taking credit for calling the fire brigade, isn't it? Really,
yeah, it's remarkable.
It's
really
crazy. But China are saying we've not capitulated at all.
No, I mean, you've been pretty consistent.
So I wonder if this truce will just now, people will stop talking about it and it will just continue as it was before.
Well, absolutely. So this is for 90 days.
Yeah.
As they try to negotiate a permanent trade deal. So we'll see. But the thing that we know is that business craves certainty, and this has been nothing but chaos since day one, almost. But certainly since he announced, when he stood at the lectern with that board with all the tariffs. His tariffs have been on, they've been off, they're up for negotiation. I mean, we've experienced that in the UK, obviously, and now this is as well. It's just no wonder the stock market is just. It's like a roller coaster because they just don't know what's going to happen next.
But like you said, he's going to try and push this as a win.
Oh, absolutely, of course he will.
Even though he caused the problem in the first place.
And if people aren't really paying attention, and
they'll see it as a win,
and they'll believe him.
Like, look how the markets have gone up. Yeah. I can't even go there. Quick break. Kevin and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it is Petrie here with you on Talk, and with me, Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. The Times, Kevin, this is a story that's sort of kind of got a little bit lost, but man wrongly jailed 38 years ago faces now a long wait for compensation. This is an innocent man who spent 38 years in prison, Peter Sullivan, who was 30 when he was jailed for life for the murder of Diane Sindal, is believed to be UK's longest serving victim of a miscarriage of justice. I wonder if they're going to charge him for bed and board.
Well, there
was
they have done suggestion of Andrew Malkinson, who was the one
in
2023, 17 years, for rape, and they were going to
charge him for keep.
Extraordinary.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, just who even thinks that is the right thing? Surely someone in the system, when this comes across their desk, like, hang on a minute, we've jailed this guy for 17 years for something he didn't do, and we're going to make him pay.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's just defies belief.
It's so rude because it's like, well, he would have eaten and had to pay rent. So why shouldn't he while he's in jail? No, because you wrongfully put him in jail.
Well, he would also have earned money.
I know.
And had a life.
I hope they don't. I hope they don't do that. I mean, that is just beyond disgusting.
It is absolutely disgusting. But I mean, well, two things. One, there are no winners here.
No.
This poor man has lost 38 years of his life. He's now 68, so it's like the best years of his life, basically, he's lost. And also the family of Diane Sindal still don't know who murdered her, which is awful. And the other thing is, proponents of the death penalty, well, if we had a death penalty, this poor guy would have been executed.
Absolutely.
And then, so what then if new DNA evidence emerged to prove he was innocent?
Yeah.
Well, a bit late now.
It's too late.
So
and DNA, I looked into DNA because most people go, well, this DNA is really good these days. And you go, well, it's more of an art than it is a science still.
Yeah.
Fingerprints are an art.
Fingerprints are an art.
Are not a science. That's why AI can't do it.
Yeah, I didn't realise that until relatively recently.
Yeah. So you know, we'd have to be so far along, so much further along in DNA than we are right now to not have these miscarriages of justice.
Absolutely. And there will be, sadly, men and women in prison tonight who are innocent as well.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this poor fella has always maintained his innocence, signed a confession, and that's what convicted him. You think, well, what did they do to make him sign the confession?
Well.
Because he clearly didn't do it, and you wouldn't sign a confession otherwise, unless it was, you know, you're being coerced into doing it. So, just an extraordinary story. And you're right, this sort of came out of nowhere today.
It really did.
I had no idea about this at all. I was vaguely about Diane Sandal. I do recognise the name and saw a picture and definitely recognised. I was aware of the case.
Yeah.
But 38 years.
38 years wrongfully committed. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And yet, the quote here from him is, "I'm not angry, I'm not bitter.
What?
I am simply anxious to return to my loved ones and family, as I've got to make the most of what is left of the existence I am granted in this world."
I don't understand why people are so much better than I am as a human being. How can they be so forgiving? I'd be livid.
Well, you'd be right to be livid. I think most people would be, really.
Good heavens.
But, I mean, it's to his enormous credit that he appears remarkably
well balanced for a man who's wrongfully caged and is now going to face a very long wait for any sort of compensation, which is, again, disgusting.
And it's also not as if he can just pick up his life where he left it 38 years ago. I mean, how is he going to be able to... You think of all the advances there have been in technology and in society in the last 38 years... How on earth are you ever going to assimilate back into...
You can't, can you? Not that easily. And like you said, the Sindel family as well now not got any justice for the murder and rape of their loved one. And like you said, no winners at all. These weight loss drugs, hailed now as a key to a longer life. Weight loss drugs can delay diseases associated with ageing and halve deaths from heart attacks. These are these new drugs, class of drugs known as GLP-1 agonists, have been found to target the underlying biology of chronic illnesses.
I mean, there seems to be a lot of these stories, isn't there?
There's a lot of wonder druggery. I know.
We're learning more and more.
It can...
all sorts. I think we might even have talked about it before.
Yeah.
There does seem to be, they're just discovering more and more about what the positive side effects are of these drugs.
Yeah. Stories around as well suggesting that they can help kill cancer. That was around, I think, earlier on. Strokes, heart
disease, liver disease, kidney disease, cancer, mood and mental health. I mean, it's basically the full house there.
It's like the Holy Grail, it would appear.
Proper wonder drugs, it would appear. And, they're saying more than half the UK population could benefit from weekly injections.
Wow.
Which would deliver substantial long-term economic benefits and alleviate pressure on the NHS. I mean, it almost sounds too good to be true, doesn't it?
Well, really? I suppose it was
Although
only
if we all start living longer, we're already living longer, I think they'll be like, well, hang on a minute.
Hang on.
Well, the social care system's already creaking. We can't be having people living to 120.
Yeah, but if we're living healthier...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, as you say, there's another here, trials ongoing that are looking at the effects of these drugs on cognitive decline and dementia. I mean, if they manage to cure dementia as well, that would be absolutely astonishing.
I mean, I suppose it was only or it is only a matter of time, really, with scientific advances that you can stumble across things that suddenly have these remarkable benefits. One trial involving 17,000 overweight patients found the medication halved deaths from strokes and heart attacks and helped to protect the heart immediately, suggesting it would also work in those who did not need to lose weight. I mean, weight is a factor, isn't it, in cancer? Weight is a factor in, obviously, heart disease and in stroke. So I suppose the loss of weight would immediately help those. But if they're saying that it immediately help with
there's
the
something
heart,
else going
there's
on.
something else going on. Yeah.
But presumably if you, so those, it says they give it to people who don't need it to lose weight. But presumably if you're like thin, it's not going to make you
start losing weight?
emaciated. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Works.
I don't know how that they would, if people take it to lose weight, it's an appetite suppressant. So would somebody who's skinny also have the appetite suppressant and then become skinnier?
Yeah, which is obviously unhealthy.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe those are the questions that we do need answering now. Right, let's take another break and we will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, you're with Talk right now, and it's Petrie here with Kevin Schofield, and we're going through the papers for Wednesday. The Guardian, Zelensky, this seems like a no-sugar Sherlock statement, but I'll read it anyway.
Yeah.
Putin is the obstacle to a peace deal. I mean, no more obvious statement could possibly be made, could it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's even qualifies as a story, let alone a front page splash.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure, well, one, he's right, and two, I'm sure he said this many, many times.
Many times. And we all know that. If Russia stopped attacking, the war would be over.
Yeah.
Because
well, they're the aggressor.
Ukraine is only defending. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Zelensky said he'll travel to Turkey on Thursday. Whether or not Vladimir Putin flew in, and the general consensus is that Putin won't go because he wants to embarrass him.
Yeah.
And in that case, Trump won't go.
No, but I think then it would be difficult for Trump to in any way argue that Putin wants peace, which is what he said in the past. Now, his position has been shifting, interestingly. You know, Trump, he's not been parroting the Kremlin line quite so much. I think that this would just put it beyond all doubt if Zelensky's in Turkey on Thursday and Putin just doesn't show, which would expect he won't show.
He's not going to show.
Then how...
It'll be Lavrov or one of the others that turns up.
How can anyone argue that he does actually want peace? Because, and you have to say, Zelensky is bending over backwards here to try
and Zelensky going is performative, I think. I think he's going to Turkey.
There's a lot of theatre involved.
Totally performative. He knows Putin won't go, and he wants to be able to say to Trump, see, I turned up.
Totally. I'm here. Where is he?
Yeah.
I'm willing to talk, willing to do a deal. Well, they've said we want a ceasefire, unconditional ceasefire now already.
Well, it was meant to happen on Monday.
And
there were going to be repercussions and there were going to be consequences if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And of course, there's been no consequences. This is the little boy. We are the little boy who cried wolf.
Well, that is it, and Putin knows that.
He knows that.
I mean, look at the massacre on Palm Sunday when he bombed all those people going to church.
Yeah.
There's been no
repercussions,
there was horror at the time,
consequences.
and everyone said it was terrible, but there's been no consequences.
No. And you know, Trump was even hinting that he might do further economic sanctions, but there hasn't been anything. Europe has said the same thing, but Germany, for a start, is addicted to Russian oil.
Yeah.
And so they're all going, yeah, you take one more step and we'll do something. And then he takes a step and okay, one more.
Yeah.
Just one more.
Yeah, don't push us.
Yeah, and that doesn't work. It doesn't work with kids.
Plus
it doesn't work with dictators.
No, it doesn't. No. But we've been imposing sanctions since the invasion.
But
we were writing stories 3 years ago.
I know. But still, they're making money from what they're selling the world.
Yeah.
So the sanctions are not really doing much. A picture there of Kim Kardashian in court. Star tells the alleged robber, "I forgive you," as she recalls. This is when she was robbed at knife point, I think, in Paris.
Paris, yeah, that's right.
Must have been terrifying. Actually.
Oh, it must have been absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
But I think I'm told, it doesn't say in the front page, that this necklace that she is wearing on the front page was worth millions of dollars or millions of pounds. So I think she's sending a message there, that she's unbroken, I suppose, by her ordeal. But you wouldn't wear that down the pub, would you? Really? You wouldn't want to lose that.
No, Waitrose, I might.
Yeah, you wouldn't look out of place in Waitrose with that around your neck.
It would be fine. Number 10 defends Starmer's immigration rhetoric. That was a bizarre speech that he gave on Monday.
It was.
It didn't sound like him. It didn't sound like Labour. It didn't sound convincing. The Downing Street has robustly defended Keir Starmer's language on immigration after it was likened to that used by Enoch Powell, the famous Rivers of Blood speech, I suppose.
Yeah, and it was he talked about strangers in that speech, and it beggars belief really that the Prime Minister's speechwriters would not have been aware of the significance of that particular word, that phrase.
Do you remember though the fuss that was kicked up over the term swarm?
Yeah.
Do you remember that the migrants are swarming?
Who said that now?
Can we look that up?
That wasn't David Blunkett, was it?
It was. I think it was. Was it Blair? Was it Blunkett? It was somebody who said, "Oh, they're swarming."
Oh no, the swarm was that. That wasn't Suella Braverman when she said something like that.
No, this was years ago.
Oh, years and years ago. I think it might have been Blunkett.
Maybe it was Blunkett. And there was a huge storm kicked up about.
But
who was it? Yes, Suella did as well.
Yeah,
but it was originally. Because I remember. Funnily enough, I remember the world. Not in years, but in radio studios I was in at the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I remember which radio studio I was in when I had that conversation. It was David Cameron. There you go.
Right.
Cameron.
Oh, Cameron.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
But it is interesting that he does talk about British jobs for British workers, which when Gordon Brown said it, if you remember.
Yeah.
Not long after he became Prime Minister, it was a huge controversy.
Yeah, I mean,
and now it's it's become.
It's a very strange. It's a very strange thing, these words. But I remember Swan Cameron. That's right. It was indeed. Right. Let's have a look at the Daily Telegraph. Hostile state linked to Starmer firebombs. Terror police investigating attacks believe overseas agents could have been involved. I thought they'd arrested a 20-year-old.
Yeah, but they haven't said where he's from, though.
Good point.
But, I mean, obviously it's a very striking headline, but it says in the story, police sources said they were keeping an open mind as to any potential motive, but have not ruled out that it could be linked to a hostile state. So...
that's a bit woolly, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So the story itself, I don't think quite backs up the headline.
No.
But I mean, it really is. There's definitely something very odd has happened. It's a car that Keir Starmer used to own was set alight. A house that he used to own, a flat he owned in the 1990s, was attacked, and his house that has now been lived in at the moment by his sister-in-law while he's in 10 Downing Street, that was obviously there was this fire at the front door. So
and it's a very odd collection of.
Very odd.
I mean, why would a hostile state want to bomb his old car?
Why would anyone?
Yeah,
it is really weird. And why like an old car in a flat that he lived in over 20 years ago? Very strange.
It's odd.
But obviously, too much of a coincidence for it not to be.
No, it has to be linked. But it sounds more like an obsessive stalker than a hostile. I don't know.
Yeah,
Who knows?
it is very strange. But maybe now they've got somebody in custody. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of it.
Maybe we'll find out a little bit more. Burglars now to serve a third of their sentence. Burglary being downgraded, it would appear.
Yeah, well, this is obviously the government trying to tackle the overcrowding crisis. So offenders jailed for offences such as burglary, shoplifting, can earn their freedom. So the thinking here is they can get out earlier, which will ease the overcrowding, and if they do courses or work in prison, they can be more likely to be rehabilitated and less likely to reoffend. So it's like a win-win, really. They leave better citizens, less likely to go back in, which helps to ease overcrowding, and also they're getting out earlier, a third instead of 40%.
I mean, look, if it works.
If it works.
Yeah.
But I mean, remember last year they had to let out thousands of prisoners, and yet here we are again. But which they did say at the time, this is just a temporary solution. It will go back up unless we do something about the sentencing regime. So we'll see if this works. But again, the difficulty here politically is they'll be accused of being soft on crime. Will it just be burglars and shoplifters? There's undoubtedly going to be more serious offenders will get out by accident, or there will be controversies over people being let out early and then doing committing a horrible crime and going back in again. There'll be all of this, but I think the bigger issue is running at prison cells.
Yeah, but it's hard to argue you're a party of law and order, isn't it? It's hard to make people swallow that pill.
And it's an easy win for Reform and the Tories, I suppose, as well. They can say, well, there's Labour, they're emptying the jails, typical Labour,
New migrant rules boost UK hopes of a softer Brexit deal. Haven't we done Brexit? Have we gone back in time?
No. Well, this is this reset he's doing. So that next week there's a summit where they're renegotiating the deal, which was always going to happen. I think it was like a 5-year thing. So it's up for renegotiation. So I couldn't quite get my head around what this story was getting at, but basically it looks as what they think, and it seems a bit wishful thinking to me, is if because of this crackdown on immigration, if they reduce immigration like they want to, that means there'll be more space for under 30s to come as part of this youth mobility scheme. So that the idea is we'll get rid of illegal immigrants and people who shouldn't be here. So, as I say, there will be more room, for want of a better word, to let under 30s come in from the EU. So it won't push up the overall immigration figures.
This is about getting money, isn't it? This is about getting us signed up to the defence scheme that Europe has now
it's
got.
all
They've got
interlinked.
€100 billion
It's all interlinked.
Spend,
The French wanted a deal on fish.
Yeah.
Spain wants a deal on Gibraltar. We want a better economic trade deal. So it's all about trade-offs
and looking to the Norway model as well.
Yeah. And so, of course...
Well, look, I think Brexit didn't do us any favours. We think everybody can see that now. It wasn't what was lied about or promised. And maybe we just have to accept a certain amount of closer relation.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from a trade point of view, absolutely get rid of the friction. But at the same time, then you're left in a position, well, like you say, Norway, where you're in it, but you don't have any influence. So you're a rule taker.
I know, so we've lost.
You've lost influence. You have to take these rules and have no say in it, and that's not great either.
No, it's not great.
We are where we are, and I think it's just whoever's in power is going to try and make the best of it.
And I don't think we can trust America at the moment.
No,
on
definitely not. Definitely not.
Right, Kevin, we've got to take another break, but we will be back in just a second.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here. And with me is Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. The Daily Mail there reflecting on the 38 years in jail for a murder he did not commit. I can't even imagine the horror of that. The Daily Express covering the obesity, golden age of obesity-fighting drugs on the way. NHS bosses have been urged to speed up the rollout even of weight loss drugs to many millions in a golden age of anti-obesity treatment. Those diet companies, people like Weight Watchers,
I know, they must be raging,
and they'll all go bankrupt.
I know.
Slimming World,
yeah.
Weight Watchers, all of these recipe places.
I was going to sell the ones that sell recipes.
Yeah.
You see that? Yeah. You remember Slim Fast?
It's worth. Yeah, it's worth. They're worth billions.
Yeah.
The weight loss industry is worth billions. I mean, it's still worth billions.
Yeah.
But it's turned to drugs rather than to these diet books.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Rosemary Conley, people like that.
All this stuff. Because if you're going to, taking a pill or a jab, does it, then that's it. Why would you sign up?
With no stress and no deprivation and no feeling hungry and all of those things.
Yeah.
If you're invested in the diet company.
It just shows, doesn't it?
Yeah, how quickly things can change. They must be absolutely raging, like you said, gutted at the moment. The Daily Star has lost its sense of humour. I'm sick of it. I'm going to stop supporting the Star.
Has it become a bit more serious?
Yeah.
Because I'll never read it when I'm here.
Yeah, I know, but it used to be the thing I looked forward to.
Yeah.
And then it went all serious, and then I thought, it was only for 2 weeks, and then whoever was on holiday came back and it was fun again.
Yeah.
And now they've decided, obviously, that the more serious front pages sell. The Star.
Do they?
I don't know. It's rubbish. Anyway, it's about Kim Kardashian. I have babies, I need to live. Kim K feared she would die in a 7.5 million jewellery heist. And it must have been terrifying, but seriously?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it?
I'm annoyed.
Not even anything about AI robots. No, they love a story about AI robots are going to kill us.
Yeah, there's no seagulls.
Or an orange man baby.
Orange man baby. Boffins. Lags. I mean, the whole thing. It was,
disappointing.
It is disappointing, especially these days. We need a bit of.
We need the Star more than ever.
Yeah. So stop
Cheer
it, Star. Please pull yourself together and get back to your old ways. That's what we love you for.
Exactly.
This is again the Metro. Again, going into that story, quite rightly, I think the front page there, Mr. Sullivan, who was now being released. He was known as the Beast of Birkenhead.
I mean, yeah.
Wow.
It's astonishing, isn't it? And released on the 14,113th day inside. Wow. I mean, but you look at, there's a picture obviously of him in 1986, and it's just an artist's impression, but unsurprisingly, given that he's now 68, you see the difference. He is an old man. But, as we said earlier, not bitter, it would appear. He says he's not bitter. He goes, what happened to me is very wrong, but it does not detract or minimise that all of this happened off the back of a heinous and most terrible loss of life. I'd like to say how sorry I am to the family of Diane Sindal, who have now got to come to terms with the death of their daughter being down to someone else, which is true. Still, now they don't know. Yeah,
now they don't know who did it. And they won't find peace again, will they, from that? I mean, that is shocking. And there's that story on the front page of the Metro there, Wiggins, I was a cocaine addict.
Mm-hmm.
The Financial Times having a field day at the moment. I think the FT, they've never had so many stories.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. Beijing fears over UK-US trade accord cloud London's bid to revive China ties. We haven't yet to see the detail. This isn't a trade deal between America and the UK. We have yet to see any details. So this was rushed out because Trump needed something to say.
Mm-hmm.
we've got to pick a horse, I guess, at some point.
Well, yeah, I mean, the government's line has always been consistently, we don't have to choose, certainly not between the US and the EU, but obviously China is now a major factor as well. They say that the UK has historically been a bridge between, across the Atlantic, and that we can manage along quite fine with both. Things are different though in post-Brexit world. When we were part of the EU, we were under less pressure to pick a side, certainly economically, because we were part of the EU trading bloc. Whereas now we're on our own, you kind of do have to choose.
Well, we keep trying to, cuddle up to everybody, and that just doesn't work.
That's just not the way the world works, unfortunately. It would be nice if it did, but it doesn't. And now you've got China, not quite rattling their sabres, but saying we don't like the sound of this deal.
No. And they're right. We should not have rushed to this deal. We didn't get any favours. We know that we're not going to get any special deals, no matter how much Trump talks about it. I mean, we got the same tariffs as the Taliban. We're not exactly favoured here. We've yet to find out what these pharmaceutical tariffs are going to do to us. We will not be exempt from that. And it is not surprising that China is saying, look, you shouldn't have rushed into this. There are better deals to be done.
Yeah.
China is speeding up efforts to get rid of all foreign-made components, so they will be self-sufficient.
Completely self-sufficient, and they can do it.
And then the world will have to watch out.
Yeah.
So Trump has just sped up the whole process of China becoming an even bigger powerhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. They won't need to buy any.
No, they won't need to buy anything from anyone. It's quite something to watch. That China's just like, no, we'll take a bloody nose, mate. We're just not gonna.
No.
It's something. And again, the FT talking there about this Trump deal. Trump wants $1 trillion. He said he's not going to settle for less than $1 trillion. But like I said, that's probably GDP of Saudi Arabia, so he won't get that. But it won't stop him from saying that.
No, definitely not. And this story at the bottom is a pretty remarkable story as well. Thames Water bosses.
Oh my God! I'm so furious about this.
I mean,
livid.
That company has been so mismanaged. Livid. They've had to be bailed out, and as part of that bailout, their executives are getting 50% of their salary and a bonuses and retention incentives.
How can they get a bonus for messing up so badly? Yeah, we had to give them the taxpayer had to give them a £3 billion emergency loan. And Thames Water bosses are going to give themselves 50% bonuses out of that loan.
Extraordinary. Now they say,
how is that allowed?
Well, they say that they need to do it to stop their best staff.
Well, they're not obviously not that good.
Well, exactly. Think, well, what on their CV makes them so attractive to other employers? So I'm just thinking, Thames Water.
Perhaps if we were really rubbish at our jobs, we could get a 50% pay rise.
I've been trying for a long time.
And you're very good at it, apparently. You're very good at being rubbish.
Pretty talented, thank God. I finally found a talent.
And you will get that pay rise, Kevin. You will.
Where's my bonus?
Yeah, we'll make sure you get a 50 pence bonus. How about that? Kevin Schofield, thank you. It's wonderful to see you as ever.
Nice
political editor at the Huffington Post UK. Right, coming up, it's just you and me and a full hour of phone-in. And I'm fascinated to talk about addiction and particularly functioning with an addiction. Is it really that possible? This comes off the back of a story from Bradley Wiggins, the Olympic gold medal winning cyclist, who has declared that he was a functioning cocaine addict. He said that he was high nearly all of the time and nobody knew. How is that possible? How do you function as an addict? Give me a call. I'd love to hear your stories about this. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate. And you can text your stories to me. Put talk and then 87222. I'll see you in just a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next hour, and this hour is all yours. No guests, nothing. I'm not going to try and squeeze in a call at the end of an interview or push a call right before a break. This whole hour is dedicated to you and to your voices. It is the only hour left that does precisely that on this station. So what I want to talk about this morning has really been triggered by this story from Bradley Wiggins. And Bradley Wiggins revealed that he was, as he called it, a functioning cocaine addict. 45 years old, he became the first British cyclist to win the Tour de France in 2012, and with 8 Olympic medals, including 5 gold, he's one of the most decorated Britons ever at the Games. He retired in 2016 and fell into debt and addiction. And last year it emerged that he'd been bankrupt and had resorted to sofa surfing between friends' houses. He lost his nearly £1 million family home and his marriage collapsed, and he's now revealed that his family feared for his life. So the word functioning doesn't seem to be the right one. I wonder if people kid themselves into thinking that they're functioning, although we do know there are functioning addicts. We know that there are dentists, we know that there are doctors, we know that there are solicitors, we know that there are people with actual, proper jobs, the drivers, train drivers. There are people who are functioning on drugs or alcohol. But I wonder how functioning. He goes on to say, I was a functioning addict. People would not realise I was high most of the time for many years. He says I was doing, I'm going to say boatloads, although that's not quite the word he used. I was doing boatloads of cocaine. I really had a bad problem. I realised then that I had a huge problem. I had to stop. I'm lucky to be here. I was a victim of all my own choices for many years. I already had a lot of self-hatred, but was amplifying it. And look, he has had a tragic life, Wiggins. I mean, you can't help but, look at what happened to his father. Left the family home. I think the dad was 55. He was murdered at a party in 2008. He was a manic depressive. He was an alcoholic who abused Wiggins' mother. Wiggins was just 2 when his dad was murdered. So it's a lot, right? So you can kind of see why somebody might turn to drugs. But I find it fascinating how people can function. How can he have been high most of the time and people not realise? When I've been around people who've taken cocaine, I think it's really obvious. Not just because I've seen them in some cases taking it, but in other cases, it seems very obvious to me. They talk a lot, they repeat themselves, they become quite boorish, quite loud and boorish, and chew a lot and have a tight jaw or sniff a lot, and certainly the dead giveaway is the dilated pupils. I think it's pretty obvious when somebody's high. So I think I'd spot it, and I don't know how, if you are functioning with an addiction, how you do it, because I've never been a drug taker, never, but it's only because I'm a control freak. I can't bear the thought of being out of control. So I've never really done anything to excess like that in order to lose control. But I don't understand how people can take a drug and still function. 117 tons of cocaine are used in this country every year. I mean, that's a lot, right? Cocaine's quite light. Can you imagine 117 tons of it. The people who are using cocaine a lot, the growing cohort, is middle-aged, middle class, usually women. Loads of women taking cocaine. We know about people who function with alcohol, that they have to have a drink, or opioids. There are literally millions of people in this country who function every day, get up, go to work, look after their family, and they are definitely addicted to over-the-counter opioids or prescription opioids. Because gone are the days where you could only get them on prescription from your doctor, right? There's all sorts of these online pharmacies now in India that will just send you as many diazepam as you want. And so there are people who are totally hooked on that stuff. So I want to hear from you. Are you managing to function on the addiction that you have? And look, we're prepared to change your name. And clearly it's not something most people are going to want to talk about. But if you know somebody, maybe an ex-partner, maybe a son, a daughter, somebody who is functioning whilst being an addict, I'm just fascinated to know what that looks like. I can't imagine, because I promise you that the mental gymnastics that I have to do in this studio, you wouldn't believe it, because it just looks like I'm just sitting here just talking. There's an awful lot going on around me, and I have to be completely on my absolute A game to know what the screens are. People are talking to me when they need to talk to me through my headphones. There's all sorts of stuff going on. If I had just one drink before I came to air, I don't think I could do it. In fact, I'm sure I couldn't. I'm sure I couldn't do the mental gymnastics that I have to do when I'm on air for 3 hours solid if I'd had a drink. So I don't know how you function. I just don't get it. So I'm fascinated by it. Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Like I said, calls are charged at the national rate, and you can message me as well. Put the word talk and then your message to 87222. And I do appreciate it's probably not the sort of thing you want people to recognise, your voice, but we will change your name and where you're from and do as much of that as you want us to do. I understand it. Right, let's talk to Kaz, who's in Hainault. Hello, Kaz. How are you?
Morning, sweetheart. How are you?
Morning, my darling. I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. I just wanted to share my story.
Please do.
There's one word in your little monologue there saying functioning. You don't function.
Now, I've always wondered.
No, you don't. Once it's grabbed you, you do not function.
So for a while, though, with was it alcohol?
Yeah.
For a while, you were able to function, drink and carry on?
Yeah.
So explain that to me. How did you do that?
Yeah. I raised 2 kids, had a home, everything. I had a job, not a problem. And it got to a certain point. We got evicted, actually. It was nothing to do with the drinking. That was the catalyst in the beginning. We got chucked into this bed and breakfast, and the drinking just made it a little bit easier. Little did I know that I was going through the early menopause at the time, and it just, after a while, I was doing a bit of cleaning for people and raising my kids. She was on her GCSEs and everything else, and next thing you know, it's grabbed you. And you just cannot get off. You have to do tapering, you have to do this and this. I've already had a detox years ago, and you just can't get off because you have to taper.
There's this. Okay, let me take you back, right, Kaz, to when you would just I suppose like a lot of people, you just go, I've had a difficult day today, the kids have gone to bed, I'll have a glass of wine. That's where it kind of starts. The association then becomes, oh, I can relax, and then and have a glass of wine. And then you start thinking, oh, when the kids go to bed, I can have that glass of wine. So that switches immediately. It becomes a reward. So that feeds the reward centre of your brain, and then that becomes a habit. So was it just that to begin with? Just oh, I'll have a glass of wine when the kids are in bed?
Yeah, living in that B&B, it wasn't very pleasant. Let's just say. So you needed a drink just to get through the day. To be honest, that was about 15 years ago.
And then when did it become more than that? Was it incremental?
It's a very, very slow process.
Right.
I noticed it about 2 years ago. And my youngest daughter, she said to me, oh, you got Parkinson's? And she noticed a bit of a tremor there, the old shakes. And now, Petrie, I'll be honest with you, I'll always be open and honest. If I don't have a drink, honestly, when I make my cup of coffee in the morning, I have to make it in a sippy cup because I'll give myself third-degree burns.
Wow.
Yeah. And you have to have that drink to quell the tremors. I got kind of forced into a withdrawal last week, and you start hearing things, you start seeing things. It's not real.
How did you get forced into withdrawal? Could you not afford to buy any booze? Or
my youngest daughter's moved out, so financially, I can't afford it anymore.
And at your sort of peak, how much do you drink? When do you start drinking? So first thing in the morning to settle your tremors?
Oh, I would probably start in the early afternoon.
And what would you drink?
Tramp Killer. Yeah, the white cider.
Is that because it's cheap?
Yeah, it's crack in a bottle. Crack in a bottle.
And they come in those massive 2-litre plastic bottles.
Yeah.
How many of those would you get through?
Just the one.
Just the one. And that's every day?
Yeah, every day.
And nothing else but that? But it's 2 litres of quite strong cider?
Yep. Yeah.
And then what, you just fall into a sleep, or...?
I usually go to sleep. But I don't function now. I don't work. I don't see my family. I don't see my friends. I don't leave the house. I don't check my letterbox. Nothing. And I know I need to go to a detox. I asked my doctor last week for some benzos. He said no. So I need to go to a detox. And all they've offered me is 6 weeks in a place miles away from home. And I've got a cat here, so I don't know. But
can you not get your daughter to look after the cat?
The youngest one I could. I mean, she's got her own issues, but the youngest one I probably could. Yeah.
Do you? I mean, look. I want you to. I know you're always honest, but I want you to be really honest. Do you want to stop?
Yes, I do.
Right. Okay.
Because it's ruined me. It's ruined my teeth. It's ruined my bones. It's ruined my muscle mass. It's ruined my bloody life.
I mean, I can only say that I know from my brother. It's taken everything from him because he got frontal lobe dementia. So that is a danger that you're dicing with.
Yeah,
is the loss of your cognitive function. And a lot of alcoholics don't realise that. It's not talked about. It's always like teeth or whatever, which is exactly the same for my brother. But things like that. But he has alcoholic dementia.
Yeah,
Korsakoff syndrome. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're aware of it.
I am very much so. Yeah.
Have you been tested for it?
No, I had an MRI on my head last year. Everything's okay. I've had numerous LFTs. Thankfully, things are okay at the moment.
Right. Can I recommend something to you?
Go on.
Vitamin A.
Okay.
Because Korsakoff syndrome is caused by a lack of vitamin A. When you drink alcohol, it deprives your body of vitamin A, and vitamin A is vital to the synapses in your brain. In fact, when my brother was in hospital undergoing detox, he was on a massive vitamin A drip.
Okay.
So look it up. It's very cheap to buy vitamin A. You have to be careful you don't OD on that, but just look up the correct doses and everything. But if you're a big drinker, vitamin A can be something that will protect your brain.
Okay.
So
okay.
Just give that. You know, have a look. You're a smart woman. You can look that up and see. You know, you're aware of Korsakoff syndrome. So. It's real and it's devastating. And my younger brother has got a walking frame. He can't. He took a fall very recently. I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying it to scare you, but I'm saying it for you to realise this is really, really, really serious stuff.
I had a fall at Christmas and I broke my foot.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of going up ladders just to change a light bulb.
So you don't go out now. Why?
Anxiety more than anything.
So how do you get your booze? Is it delivered to you or?
Just a local shop. I stay very, very local.
Right.
Yeah, I just go and get my shopping, go and get my booze, and then come home. I stay very local.
And why do you lock yourself away?
Do you know, I don't know.
You say anxiety, but
I've lost all my confidence. You know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know how to apply for a job. I wouldn't even know.
And what about friends? Have you pushed them out?
Pretty much. I've got a few friends, but they're dotted all over the country. Nobody local. So it's just my youngest daughter, really, that I've got. But everybody else is all over the country. You know, I couldn't just pop in for a cup of tea.
But is that because you don't want them to try to stop you drinking at the moment? Look, you can't. It has to be you that stops it. I expect if somebody walked in and said, "What are you drinking for?" you'd kick them out. So I'm just trying to figure out if it's, you know, because my brother did it. He pushed everybody away that might have something to say about his drinking.
Yeah. The main thing is, you know, if somebody was going to come to my house, I probably wouldn't let them in because I don't do housework.
Right.
Things like, yeah, that's the main thing that keeps people away.
Yeah, shame.
Yeah. I don't even keep booze in the house, Petrie. I don't lock things away in cupboards because I don't have the money for that. But it's just the lack of housework and things like that. I don't really let a lot of people in the house unless it's tidy.
Right.
And that takes massive effort.
And you can't, psychologically, you can't do the housework. Mentally, you can't do the housework. It's too much.
I can a push. It's a massive effort to do it. If that makes sense.
Oh, listen, when I went round to my brother's house, I can't tell you the squalor. I mean, you know, I just can't tell you. It was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah. Because to the outside world, he was this, you know, young, dapper guy who was pulled together until he wasn't, and so it was quite shocking. Is there any support or help you can get with? Because if somebody can come and clean your house with you or for you, that's going to have such an impact on your mental health, such a positive impact.
Yeah, and this is the issue I'm having with Job Centre. I claim universal credit.
Right.
but I don't get the sickness element.
Okay.
So I currently live on £95 a week. And currently, if I got that extra money, I'd be able to pay someone to come in just for a couple of hours a week. You know, help me with the dishes, put the Hoover around, and just someone to talk to, make a cup of tea. Job done.
Yeah, and really that is what you need, because it's a spiral, isn't it? It's a downward spiral, and if you started with a blank canvas, if you like, in a way, a clean place, then people could come around and see you, then it would lift your spirits, then, you know, it might just have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, it would certainly raise my confidence.
Yeah.
Just a bit. Yeah.
And it's so difficult, I think, when you get into the position you're in. Nobody could lift themselves out of it. I have absolute empathy for you, because it's so difficult when you're in that place to find the motivation to get out of it. You need outside help. You mentioned to me that you taper.
Yeah.
To try. So I don't think that works with alcoholics, does it?
No, it doesn't. No. Because it's leaving the door open.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to, because you have to have something to keep the shakes away. And then you just sort of gradually reduce it. But if you've had a bad day, I'll just buy an extra can. So that it doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work.
No, because you're just topping up your addiction as opposed to stopping the addiction.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to your GP about these so-called weight loss drugs? Because one of the side effects of them is that it stops people wanting to drink. Have you heard about this?
I didn't know this.
Yeah, these GLP-1s, they're discovering more and more that that these drugs have got many potential uses, and one of them they have discovered is that people who are taking these drugs don't want to drink. You just don't. That sort of the desire part of your brain gets switched off.
Right.
So it might be worth asking about that.
Yeah. See, when I had my first detox, they put me on this drug, and it killed so much of my emotion, even though I didn't want to drink. It took away cravings, but it killed the rest of my emotion that I felt so flat.
Yeah, no, I don't think these weight loss drugs do that.
Okay, that's something to look into.
It's something definitely to look into. They were used for diabetes, but they're now discovering more and more uses for them. And one of them, I'm sure I was reading, is about alcohol addiction, and it can help with an addictive tendency. So it might be, and it's just, you know, it might just be a case of a jab every week could help you cut the booze.
That's worth looking into. Thank you.
Have a look into that. Look into vitamin A. Get yourself some vitamin A. It's very cheap, and make sure that you protect your brain.
Thanks, Petrie.
All right, my darling. Well, you can always call here. You know that.
Yeah. Likewise. Thank you.
All right. You take care. Kaz there in Hainault. I've got to take a break because I'm really late. Back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This.
Hi there, this is a talk and it is Petrie here with you, and we're talking about being an addict. A story was kicked off by Bradley Wiggins revealing that he was a functioning cocaine addict, and just been speaking to Kaz, and she said the word that's wrong in that sentence is the word functioning, and this is what I'm trying to get to grips with, is how you function with an addiction, because I find that I just find it difficult to understand. Not that I don't believe it, I totally believe, I know it. I know that people are functioning as addicts every day of the blooming week and doing very serious, important jobs, and they are functioning. I just don't know how, and I'd love it if somebody could explain that to me. GNF, this is Grant, sorry. I used not to drink until I finished work. Then I would drink between 16 to 24 cans. Wow. Of either Scrumpy Jack or Magners. Why is cider the go-to drink? I wonder. But I do know that vitamin A can cause massive liver damage with people drinking. Thanks, Grant, the recovering alcoholic. Yeah, I mean, two things there. One is that's why I said to Kaz to be very careful with vitamin A and to make sure that she checked dosaging and things like that. And the second thing is that alcohol causes massive liver damage as well. I just know that vitamin A was the thing that my brother's brain was deprived of, which is what caused his Korsakoff dementia. So there you go. But thank you, Grant. Martin says, loads of people sniffing all day these days. You become immune to the effects. You build a tolerance, the same as any drug, including alcohol. Not that I sniff. I couldn't afford it. And those pictures of poor Daniela Westbrook were enough to put me off. Absolutely. When she lost her septum, that middle bit of her nose. Oh, that was awful, wasn't it? Oh, my God, I can see it in my mind's eye right now. Horrible picture. That was a pap that got that, wasn't it? Right under her nose. Right, I'm going to go to the phones now, but there are loads of messages that I've got to read out as well. Guy is in Guildford. Hello, Guy in Guildford.
Yeah, obviously that's not my real name, but anyway, that's
I like it. It suits you.
Just thought it was, it rolled.
It does.
Do you want to? Yeah,
I want to know everything.
You're the presenter, so
I want to know everything. You're with Petrie.
And obviously, I think my voice is probably quite noticeable. So if anyone is out there that may listen to this, they probably will notice me. Anyway, so look, I've listened to this. I've listened to yourself this evening, and obviously I was kind of inspired in some way to actually finally maybe get some views across, but. Because I don't think it's necessarily easy for anyone being in the position that maybe I am or have been, and but equally the other effects and things that are related to addiction, especially potentially cocaine addiction or whatever else. But look, that's my intro.
I'm really glad you rang.
You are?
Yeah, I really, really am. So talk me through.
Okay, so the thing that annoys me the most about, I say addiction, or obviously, look, it starts off from my point of view, I suppose. Yeah, look, in terms of functional, look. I might kid myself, or did kid myself for years that, look, I could get away with it and everything else. And maybe I did get away with it for longer than others may have done. But there is obviously a slow decline which you may not notice. And there obviously. There are upsides in it, and films like Wolf of Wall Street with Matthew McConaughey going like, you need a bit of this to kind of do your trades and kind of things like that. That's kind of what's the word?
Was your thing cocaine?
Yeah, because that's what this program's about.
Yeah, well, it's about addiction.
Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah, and I know, no offense to Kaz. Like, I just think like if we're going to stay the focus on it is. You know, it's about 117 tons of coke coming into the country, and that's, I suppose, what the headline was about. And I suppose if you make that into a monetary value, obviously moving on from my kind of making it kind of cool to do coke, or kind of making it with like Matthew McConaughey, which is like, he's a cool guy. It's like, but obviously, you know, that's what is the word? And anyway, you think how much money that is? Like how many 117 tons of cocaine?
I wouldn't have a clue.
So there's 1,000 grams in a kilo, and there's 1,000 kilos in a ton, right? You times that up, and then obviously that's a lot of money, and that's a lot of money going into the black market, right? And obviously, talk radio are very good about things like immigration and illegal immigration and things like that, and the certain people that are running illicit black market industries, etc. And you think, okay, well, where's that money going? So there's a lot of money going into pockets of people that not only are here potentially illegally or maybe on short-term visas or whatever else, but that's money taken out of our society. So, you know, happily we're able to watch, you know, back in the day when we used to have Marlboro McLarens, when Ayrton Senna was there back in the day, and Embassy snooker championships, etc. That's gone, but what's still left is gambling and alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So if Carlsberg could do cocaine, Carlsberg would be the best cocaine suppliers in the world, right?
Yeah, to take their advert.
I just made that one up.
It's very good.
But okay, so that's a bad thing. And I think, you know, if cocaine in some ways it's not mass in terms of the addictive side, it's great to do, but in terms of health-wise, it's not. Yeah, and I'm not promoting it at all. But look, I think people have got to be real about this to a certain extent. That there's gambling, there's drug addiction, and there's alcohol addiction. Okay, smoking is obviously bad, and that's a big thing. And you know, I've got kids, and they would never smoke. Okay, now you know that vaping's around and everything else, and that's another thing that maybe for another time, but. And even my kids probably now, you know, alcohol probably isn't a thing, and drugs definitely isn't a thing. And I think maybe going forward, I heard you say, I've taken notes whilst I've been watching the programme earlier, and I think, you know, most drug addiction is middle-aged, right? So I think it's made, hopefully, a deteriorating kind of addiction.
Yeah, I think you could be right, although I do think that weed, you know, cannabis has taken over from alcohol with young people. You know.
Yeah, okay, but that's another story.
Yeah, that's a different thing. I want to get back to your cocaine.
No, I smoked weed when I was that's probably, people say it's the gateway, right? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I think, but there's, you know, I think, but the society's managed to kind of harness the benefits, okay, of cannabis and the medicinal side of it. You know, I've got friends that are, you know, recovering from cancer, and they're able to use medicinal cannabis and things like that. You know, obviously cocaine has been used in pharmaceuticals for
dentistry,
years.
Novocaine, the injection you get in your mouth.
Not necessarily that, but even you know, like the good stuff, right? And I say that flippantly. However, like, you know, and this is kind of a thing. Is like, okay, and it's not like, I suppose, it may sound like I'm kind of like trying to kind of promote it, and I'm not at all. But I think the main issue is like reducing the black market, and I suppose this is where the kind of part of talk radio, and which is what I've listened to for years or whatever else. But you know, there is an element where if you want to get rid of an element of a mass market, black market economy, then where people spend a lot of their money, then maybe you have to look at okay, if you take the ability for that black market to make that money, which is a lot of it is all right, cocaine and maybe the sex industry, you're not going to be able to, you're not going to start giving that on the NHS, obviously. But in terms of potentially, cocaine or whatever else, then maybe that should be looked at. And obviously that, with a Conservative government, was never able to happen. Obviously, Liberal, they've muted it. Obviously, Labour, whatever. This just not, And
I think there's a really strong argument for either legalising or at least decriminalising drugs. I've always stood by that, and I believe that is the answer.
But obviously, we're talking about functional cocaine abuse. So I'm not making this into a political argument.
No. But I mean, listen, I buy that argument every day of the week anyway. But listen, tell me about when would you take cocaine? You said you were functioning as an addict. So would you take it in the morning? Would you take it before a meeting? When would you take it?
Generally, after, it'd be midday, kind of. Well, it would never be I've never woken up with a bottle of gin it's more of like a kind of midday
a bump to give you a bit of a bump in the day.
And I there's like Tom Ford, the fashion designer. What my mates kind of said to me when I was in this period of kind of looking at it, she was like, this Tom Ford was like, one thing he said, I don't know, it's not verbatim, but it was like, I didn't ever want to give up because I was afraid of losing my creativity. And then when he realised that actually when he did give up, it was still there. So I think there's sometimes a fear of things that you do when you're in the midst of addiction, that the positive things, that you may not have those when you come out of it, and actually. There's some good things that may come out of it. There's obviously a lot of bad things. But I think, the functioning side of it, like you say, I noted the fact that you say, you could see if someone was on it, or, they'd be sniffing or their eyes are dilated. That's, I think, and there's no disrespect to yourself, I think Do
you think I would have spotted you as being a user?
I don't know. I've never met you. I haven't met you. I kind of thought I don't think it's as easy as that. I think if you're, because people, if someone's talking fast or they could have ADHD. If they've got dilated eyes, they could just be nervous, And I think sometimes you could have a perception of someone and think, oh, they're obviously on it. And actually, they're not. They're just maybe nervous, or they're shy, or whatever else.
I guess so. Maybe I've wrongly judged people, but it is.
I don't know. It's cool. I get it. No, it was good to hear what you said, because I think it's just maybe it creates a discussion,
I just think it's interesting that people either are functioning or they think they're functioning.
No, they're not. No, they think they are.
They think they are.
And this is it. This is that element of where, or not, I suppose, that idea where, there are potentially some things that may come out of, conversations, creativity, whatever else, whilst you may be, using, and that's that type of person that is using. Not everyone uses, and.
There are a lot of artists throughout history who have taken drugs, and we know that, and they've attributed some of their artwork to those experiences, and I completely understand that. Guy, I could talk to you all night, but unfortunately I'm getting shouted at to take another break, so I'll be back in just a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, it is Petrie here on Talk at the moment. Message here says, good evening, my name is Ron and I'm a functioning amphetamine user. I've been through a roller coaster and I'm still functioning and learning every day. It makes me feel normal and I'm a firm believer that I have basically been self-medicating my own ADHD. Cocaine is for muppets and drink is for death. I've been in rehab twice. First time just on the mend and got kicked out because the cover ran out, and the second time I realised I was homesick. I could write a #1 book, could text forever, but night night. Thank you, Ron. Amphetamines, yeah, that's an easy one to get hooked on as well, isn't it? Thank you for that. I've got a voice note now from Angelo. He has sent us this.
Dear Petrie, I'm not fully convinced that one is ever 100% functional as an addict. There's always that thing at the back of one's head demanding your attention. So your work, family, friends, dog never gets. You look into your eyes and their eyes and you're thinking about something else altogether. You know, everything can fall apart around you and you're not really that bothered. You're inured to life. You know, it's muffled. It's a muffled experience, and you never stay functional. You can never do your all right best. That's in my experience anyway.
Angelo, that was brilliant. Really, really brilliant. Because I totally know that the one relationship that matters, the only relationship that matters, is that with the thing you're addicted to. And you're right, everybody else, everything else takes second place. That was a brilliant description. Thank you. Listen, just before the next break, it's time to find out how you could be in with a chance of winning a weekend away in Munich at the end of May to watch the biggest game in European football, that being the Champions League final. We're also putting £5 in your pocket to spend however you want.
Win a once-in-a-lifetime trip to watch the Champions League final live. Go to talksport.com/win for your chance to embark on the ultimate odyssey of football ecstasy. With 2 tickets to the Champions League final live at the iconic Munich Football Arena, Germany, including flights, accommodation, and an uber-massive £5 in your hand. How about that? Enter online now at talksport.com/win. Terms and conditions apply. Achtung, baby.
18 plus UK, excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win all of that, simply text the word football to 83338 by the 16th of May at 11 p.m. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or send your name and number by post to Champions League final competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 21st of May. This is a TalkSport limited competition run on TalkSport Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
So there you go. That is your chance to win that brilliant prize courtesy of our colleagues in TalkSport. Good luck.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here. I've got a great message here I just want to read out to you. It's quite long, but it is worth it. It says, "Hi Petrie, I'm as you describe as a functioning addict. I don't crave any drug, and when I'm busy I'm not interested in getting high. My problem is I can get most things done and am successful and seem to find things easier to do than other people. I get up at 5 a.m. and go running and look after everything I need to. However, this means I have a lot of free time and can deal with any calls or meetings whilst high or drunk, etc. I have no preference as to what I take, and you generally wouldn't know if I was drunk or high, as I'm aware and conscious of not letting myself go in front of people and wouldn't take things if I'm around people. That said, some of my best ideas, deals and successes have come from me being drunk or high. I'd never drive. I look after my nieces and nephews high and have a cut-off time, even if it's a long way further than most people's. I don't think it's so prevalent in the workspace as it was in the 80s and 90s. The problem is the home environment is unseen. Same as the middle-class school mums who used to drink gin but now take Coke as it's so easy to get. See the Turkish/Albanian barbershops. It can be delivered anywhere in 10 minutes. Cut it off, no one would miss it. But if, like me, you'd just find another vice." So there you go. You know, you get rid of one. And I know addicts that have quit alcohol and then become shopping addicts, or have become sex addicts, or have become relationship addicts, or some other form of addiction, and they just switch the addiction. They've got to have that high from something. So it might not be the alcohol, it might not be the drugs, it might, like I said, be shopping. It's a big addictive thing that somebody that I know has switched their addiction to. It's fascinating in a really kind of scary way to see that it is impossible to get rid of that if you have that addictive tendency, to actually just get rid of it. You just swap it for something else. I'm so grateful that I don't have that switch in my brain. Simon is in Sevenoaks. Hi, Simon.
Hello, gorgeous. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, bearing up under the strain.
Under immeasurable strain, yeah.
Your previous message that you just read out, yeah, most informative, but he hasn't reached the stage of addiction.
Oh, I see what you mean. You think at this stage that's habit? Or that's habit, and he still sees it as a bonus. Right.
And if he keeps on going down that road, it will become an issue.
So addictions are always when it becomes an issue. You think that would be the determining factor?
No. Addiction is when it becomes an issue, when you can't function without it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's choosing to utilise whatever chemical substance he can, because in his brain he's perceiving that he gets improved performance.
Yeah, that would say you would seem to be. That would seem to be the
gist,
the inference.
Of what he's saying. I mean, I come at it from another point of view. I mean, I was a military policeman. I saw some crap, and I relied on alcohol.
Right.
When I left the army, I got into construction, and in construction, cocaine use was rife.
Was it?
And because this is the days before Blair opened the borders and let all the Polish and all the Eastern Europeans in to undercut us and put us all out of business. But basically, we were paid a lot of money for what we did.
Mm.
And when you're getting a lot of money, you flaunt your wealth. And one of the ways that you flaunted your wealth was by partaking of a bit of nose powder, so to speak.
So it was just showing. It was another stage of sort of showing off, like the yuppies, if you like, in the 80s, and
yeah, basically loads of money. When did cocaine use become prevalent. It was in the 80s.
Yeah, when there were loads of money around. Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
You know, it was around in the 60s. Who used it in the 60s? It was celebrities, multi-millionaires. But then all of a sudden it became affordable, especially in the sort of like, not in the 80s onwards, the 90s. You know, if you were successful, you've got bankers, you've got members of parliament that used to partake. The difference is that in the UK, as opposed to what you'd be using in the States, for example, what you can obtain in this country is cut to buggery. It's about a quarter the strength, if that.
Yeah, I mean, that would always be the thing that terrified me, is not knowing what it was cut with, like baby powder or rat poison or glass or whatever.
Well, generally it would be something like glucose or anything, which gives it a sweetened taste, because if you sniff a line of Coke, it sort of like dries your throat out and everything like that. And
well, if it's anything like Novocaine, which is really bitter, isn't it, when you have a...
Exactly.
That's the cocaine that's injected into your mouth with a dentist. It's so bitter.
Is why the cutting agent of choice is things like glucose.
Yeah.
Because it sweetens on the palate. Because the human physiology is designed to appreciate sweet things. And that comes from nature, because if something is bad for you, it tastes bitter.
Yeah, and it comes from when you're a baby as well. Mother's milk.
Yes.
It's very sweet.
Exactly.
So it was a status symbol. It became easier to get, didn't it? I guess in the 80s and 90s as well, and it must be really easy to get now. But what's the point of it? Because it has the opposite effect of alcohol. So if you're down the pub and you're getting drunk, right, and you're enjoying that, the alcohol warmth, and then you take the cocaine and you're straight back to sober again.
Yeah, but if you've got a low tolerance for alcohol, you take 2 or 3 pints and then all of a sudden you become aggressive, violent and everything because of all the negative effects of alcohol. When you can take a substance that gives you longevity, that's a masculinity thing, isn't it? Oh, he can drink loads.
Oh, right. So it would be a deliberate ploy to sort of bring you back down, like the vomitorium, I suppose, in Roman times. So it would make you sober.
As an ex-soldier, though, Petrie, do you know, it was a status in the army, especially in Germany, where beer was so bloody cheap.
And delicious, to be honest.
Well, yeah, well, that's because it's only made with 4 chemicals, isn't it?
I know, it's beautiful. German beer is absolutely lovely.
And it doesn't give you a hangover like it does over here. But let's stop plugging Germany. But
yeah, I love the German beer.
Oh, so do I. But that aside, it's the how many beers can you drink? Do you remember the masculinity thing?
Yeah,
you know? And
I get it.
It was like, he can drink 8 pints, he can drink 10 pints, he can drink 12 pints. You have a couple of lines of Coke, it sobers you back up, and you can drink more. I remember squaddies back in the 80s and 90s that would go stick fingers down their throats, throw up after they'd drunk 5 pints, so they could go back to the bar and drink more. To have the masculinity thing, you know?
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's peer pressure, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I suspect a lot of
military, especially in a military environment where everything is about competition, it's about masculinity and that sort of thing, you know? If you have 2 pints fall over flopping ridiculously on the floor, nobody's going to want to go into battle with you, are they?
Now, I remember being challenged more times than I can. I'm 5'2", to drink. I was in Siberia, and there was some particularly nasty vodka that soldiers were drinking. Just one cup of it.
Do you know why they drink vodka out there?
It was disgusting. It was so strong.
Yeah, but because if it was a beer or something like that, the water in it would freeze, and you'd be drinking like an ice shaky smoothie sort of type thing, wouldn't you? You know, that's why they have so much alcohol in it.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. And the lads were drinking a bit of the vodka. One of them threw up because it was so strong, and I had to drink a shot of it, and I didn't throw up, and it's one of my proudest moments. 5'2" of nothing.
I'm not surprised, Petrie. You are my hero. You always will be.
Bless you. That's incredibly kind. I was my own hero that day. I tell you, I was very impressed with myself. Lovely to talk to you, Simon. Thank you very much indeed for calling. Listen, there's a couple of numbers I want you to have. Narcotics Anonymous UK. The phone number is 0300 999 1212. And there's a comprehensive list of support at talk.tv/helplines. We've got all the helplines there. But there's another one here, Result for Addiction. It's online, free and anonymous. Check and feedback and on addiction for yourself, or addiction, sorry, for yourself or a loved one. So it's a Result for Addiction.